Pirates Fire Dragon Roar Chapter 361 to 380. Chapter 361 Rivalry. If it's just because of fear that you're holding back. The man named Jack raised the justice coat behind his back with a serious look in his eyes. The justice behind my back will never fly again because of my cowardly behavior. Oh, so. Vlad nodded clearly. He already understood. It was a matter of course. A man with a strong belief behind his back is of course indestructible. Vlad quite understands this. X23 US. Com updates fastest. So, are you going to be careful not to let us go? Vlad opened his mouth. Idiots. Grasp your weapons, the battle is about to begin. Jack roared like that. His voice is loud and decisive. Although he is at the bottom of the Marine group in terms of strength and status, there is no doubt that Vlad believes that this guy has a heart that makes people valued, but ordinary people have extraordinary will. Really? Vlad smiled. Although he's a respectable guy, that doesn't mean you can be arrogant in front of me. I'm also a face-saving person. I'm coming. The maid threw the cigarette butt in her mouth to the ground and crushed it with a heavy foot. Vivi lowered her head. Her eyes were a little dark. This woman was different from Chef Vlad. Vlad and the chef with the opponent's absolute will was moved, but this woman would not. This woman would defeat all the enemies of the pirate group without hesitation. Since they have decided to seek death, let me fulfill them. Then please. Vlad nodded and said softly, even if he admired the other party, the enemy is the enemy. Since the other party has already displayed their swords, of course they have to accept the move. Haha, there are so many people. Maid took a step forward and smiled like this, then let's find out who has more firepower. Crack. The maid stretched out her arm, and an extremely horrifying scene was shown in front of the Marines. The maid's arm was directly split, and the dense little round heads were exposed. Of course, these Marines didn't know that every little round head on it could make them blast to heaven. Prepare. Jack raised his hands. Almost instinctively, all Marines raised their muskets subconsciously, and 500 black guns were aimed at the maid. I have to say, this is a very deterrent scene, for pirates from all over the world. Said, as long as it is not a guy with a special devil fruit ability, I am afraid that such a battle will be frightened. However, for a guy like a maid, it's really not a deterrent. On. Jack's face turned hideous from calm, his eyebrows were wrinkled, and his scarlet gums were exposed. He could no longer see the image of the Marine officer before. Of course he was very scared. He knew the identities of Vlad and his group, so he has no reason not to know that such an opponent is unmatched by him. Stop. Don't shoot. With such a roar, the nameless Lieutenant Colonel Marine opened his arms to block in front of the maid. His face was pale and his body was trembling in Vivi, and it was not just the dragon pirates behind him who were under pressure. The gang, as well as the Marine soldiers in front of him. If Jack said one more word, the muskets would smash him into a sieve in an instant. What are you doing, Lieutenant Colonel? Jack looked very angry and almost roared, are you protecting the pirates? Don't you know very well who I am protecting, Your Excellency Colonel? Although his face was pale and terrifying, the man roared back with a loud voice no less than Jackson's. Quote. The roar of the two officers has made the Marine soldiers in the rear bewildered. What's going on? Infighting. Get out of the way, Lieutenant Colonel. Jack's face was gloomy. Sorry. Lieutenant Colonel licked his lips and replied, Sir, I can't do it. I can't watch you die like this with my soldiers. It can be called a deafening roar. Because I don't want to die either, so I don't think these guys don't want to die either. When he was middle-aged, the man with many wrinkles on his face almost cried and said so. What are you talking about? Jack took a step forward. The musket in his left hand had already touched the Lieutenant Colonel's forehead. I can execute you on the spot with just your words. Lieutenant Colonel. As the Marine who fights for justice, she will retreat to the enemy because of fear. Lieutenant Colonel. You have shamed justice. The question is, are they really our enemies? The Lieutenant Colonel was not at all embarrassed and said loudly, Are these pirates really our enemies? Bang! Jack kicked the lieutenant colonel's stomach, and the middle-aged man kicked him to the ground with Jack's enormous strength. Aren't pirates your enemy? Jack's voice sounded extremely angry. Since you don't regard pirates as your enemy, let's Marine be your enemy. Prepare. Jack raised his hand, and the Marines behind him looked hesitant, but subconsciously raised the musket in his hand. Captain. Maid Vivi turned back. No hurry. Vlad smiled, there's still a show to watch. Stop, idiots. The lieutenant colonel stood up and stopped loudly. Leave him alone. If he wants to die, let him die. Jack waved his hand sharply, fire. They are Shichibukai under the king. Not our enemy. The lieutenant roared so loudly. The news was so startling that all the Marines forgot to pull the trigger. King Shichibukai is known even to the Marines of the Four Seas. After all, together with the Marine headquarters and the Four Emperors, they form the three major forces and maintain the balance of the world. Marine has no reason not to let his soldiers know that he is in name. Ally. Lord Colonel, at least let my subordinates know who you are fighting against. The lieutenant colonel suddenly raised his hand, pointed at Vlad and his group behind him, and roared, you want to fight against these guys, do you want to take us to death? Even for justice, consider the lives of soldiers. Shichibukai, the king, is not an enemy. You bastard. Jack's left hand holding the musket was bursting with blue veins, and one of his white teeth almost shattered. Do you know what you said? I just told them what they should know. Lieutenant Colonel did not think that he had done anything wrong. Do you think it is the right thing to risk your life and fight to the death of someone who is not an enemy? Two completely different justices begin to fight against each other. Chapter 362 Who is right and who is wrong? You guy. Jack's eyes were red, and wordless anger gathered in his eyes. This was not the first time, and it was not the first time that this man felt such anger. In this way, the justice he insisted on was rejected. The anger of betrayal. I had a similar feeling in the Academy of Marine headquarters before. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Are those cowardly guys who will compromise with pirates also deserve to be Marines? Do you also act in the name of justice? You guy. Jack said, are you trying to betray the justice behind you? Answer me, Lieutenant Colonel. If everything, even everyone's life, is for the justice you stand for, then. Lieutenant Colonel Marine showed no signs of weakness. Is this kind of justice also justice? Fire. Jack didn't mean to talk nonsense with his deputy, and waved his hand again. Since he was already on the opposite side of Marine, there was not much to say. This guy is already Marine's enemy. Since he is an enemy, then it would be better to let him die on his own. Quote. An enigmatic silence. The Marine soldiers who were originally forbidden by Jack did not fire as Jack wanted this time, and what responded to him was endless silence. You. Jack turned his head in disbelief. His subordinates who had been most obedient to him in the past did not respond to his orders this time. When facing this man's extremely surprised and unbelievable gaze, the people who were swept by him couldn't help it. Lowered his head. What are you doing? Quote. Silence, eerie silence. I said, open fire. Jack swallowed and repeated, fire, you know. That guy is no longer our partner. He's already on the side of the pirates. Are they Shichibukai? After a long time, someone finally said, isn't it an enemy? What did you say, asshole? Jack roared like a wild dog that was provoked. Whether they are Shichibukai or not, they have invaded this island and have affected the lives of the people we want to protect. Isn't such a guy an enemy? But the crowd, I don't know who said another sentence. They didn't do anything except take a little thing. Quote. Marine who didn't dare to face him. Jack had a bleak feeling for no reason, as if he had been abandoned by the world. Are these guys still the soldiers he brought out? It can only be said that human beings often only need one reason to do things. When the lieutenant colonel did not say that Vlad and his party were Shichibukai, these Marines might even know that Vlad and his party were their irresistible enemies. He will fight hard, but Shichibukai is not the enemy, and that's a good reason. Besides, there are already people who take the lead. Isn't that lieutenant colonel already taking the lead? Human beings are like this. When they had Jack as their leader, they were undead warriors, but now that they have a lieutenant colonel as their leader, they will of course be timid sailors. Besides, it's not timid, is it? After all, Shichibukai is not an enemy either. So, this is a very legitimate thing. Shichibukai is an institution that keeps pace with Marine, and it also belongs to the government, and it has a cooperative relationship with Marine. Okay, so. Vlad had no interest in continuing to watch, seeing that it was enough now. Can we go now? Of course. The lieutenant colonel, who was still sweating on his face, turned his head, and he didn't look flattering when facing Vlad, but he looked like a Marine who should have behaved. Please. It was our fault this time. Yeah, haha, this guy can really talk. Enel, who was standing on the side, smiled like this, and the laughter was full of contempt. I thought we would usher in a catastrophe today. Cut. The maid silently changed her arm back. Isn't it necessary to fight? It's so boring. Okay, since you can go, let's go. There's nothing to talk about with these guys. Vlad yawned and swaggered towards the direction blocked by Marine soldiers. The lieutenant colonel was willing to let Vlad go, but it didn't mean that no one wanted the Hualong gang to leave like this. Damn. With such a roar, the man named Jack, who had been betrayed by everyone, suddenly bent down and picked up the long sword shot down by Enel from the ground, and charged directly towards Vlad. Quote. Vlad didn't react in the slightest. The old god yawned and walked forward on his own. Stop. Do you want everyone to die with you? Bang. Was no need for Vlad to shoot himself. Lieutenant Colonel Marine had already jumped up and threw Jack directly to the ground. Come and help me hold him down. Jack's strength is really not overshadowed. This man was the commander of the base at that time, and his strength should not be underestimated, but when a dozen Marine soldiers were pressing on him, even he couldn't move, and it wasn't just his body that couldn't move. And the mind, it is not only the torso that is powerless, but also his justice. Damn. You guys, can this be considered justice? With such a roar, tears flowed from the man's eyes. How pitiful. Miss Serena rode on the big wolf and said, but it's stupid to be our enemy, right? Let's go. Vlad said this, and then looked down at Jack casually, and then he saw Jack's eyes. What kind of eyes were those? Pain and sadness, no longer the firm and decisive before. Oh, Marine. Vlad smiled softly. It's terrifying. Marine, who was standing in front of Vlad's eyes, obediently gave way to the fire dragons, allowing the enemies of justice to swagger out of their encirclement. Yeah, ha. Enel, who was walking at the end, laughed loudly. What a great justice. Is this Marine? Unable to help, all the Marines clenched their fists and bowed their heads stubbornly. The identity of Marine, who used to make them proud, will only make them feel extremely shameful at this moment. Yeah, ha. The frenzied laughter gradually faded away, leaving only the dead silence. The lieutenant colonel stood up with a sullen face and let go of Jack. I know what I did. Report it. Send me to the Ennie's lobby. I won't deny my guilt. The lieutenant said so. Call. Jack sat on the ground and did not stand up. He said softly, Justice, shame on you. I know, but... Lieutenant Colonel said, I don't think courting death is a good idea. Of course I don't deny that my actions have violated military regulations. Neat. Jack raised his left hand slightly, holding a musket in it. What do you want to do? The lieutenant colonel's pupils shrank suddenly. Bang. Jack. Dash. Marine, that's scary. On the flying pirate ship that was gradually going away, on the Platinum D-Drag, Vlad sighed. Terrible. The samurai Sakata, who was standing with him, didn't understand. Was the group of guys just now considered scary? Fortunately, there are many guys like that lieutenant colonel in Marine. Vlad said, if it's all guys like Jack, we pirates won't get along. Huh. Sakata was a little confused. Ha. Samurai, you say, which of those two did wrong? Chapter 363-1520. From Tsukimi Island in West Blue back to Sky Island was nothing to talk about, platinum flying high in the sky. It's rare for the D-Drake to encounter anything, especially after the Flying Lion has been captured. Now that Rad was sent to the prison, the ship can be said to be unobstructed. In fact, even the Platinum D-Drake flew over the top of Mariajoy with no response, seemingly unaware, which means that if Vlad was interested, he could. Mariajoy launched an attack and turned into Zurong directly. Even if a full-charged blow wiped Mariajoy directly, it was not impossible. Of course, Vlad didn't mean to do such a thing, it was purely courting death, so what if Mariajoy was leveled? How many powerhouses can die inside? The ones who died the most were probably only the pig-like Tenryubito, which would not have much impact on the government, but would have a greater impact on Vlad. It's not the time to start a full-scale war with the government, and Vlad understands this very well, so when he passed Mariajoy, he forced himself to hold back the idea of letting justice from the sky. It's still a long time, and you can play slowly in the future. It took nearly half a month to return to Sky Island. The world is still quite big. After all, West Blue is on the other side of the Red Soil continent. It is not a short journey to return to Sky Island above the paradise. Even the air pirate ship is a bit boring. It has been a month since the Dragon Pirates returned to Sky Island. How is it? In the bright laboratory, Vlad was eager to try, and his eyes seemed to be shining brightly. Don't worry. The man with the mask like a welder on his face waved his hand and motioned Vlad not to worry, there is still one last step. Let me recharge it. Crackling. A weak electric light flashed, and a bit of electric light flashed on the finger of the man wearing the mask, and it directly hit the strange-shaped thing placed in front of him. It seemed to be a metal texture with an octahedral shape. The obvious interface is obviously not something with low technical content. Yeah, ha ha ha. Done. The man wearing the mask took off the mask on his face, revealing Enel's very mocking face, but now, the man's eyes are not half asleep as usual. Although he has thick dark circles under his eyes are full of excitement. Dragon Tooth Core 5th edition. Yeah, ha ha ha, this time it will definitely work. The man who claimed to be a god said so. The name is the Dragon Tooth Core, so of course there is no need to guess what it is used for. Naturally, it is the machine core prepared for Vlad's Dragon Tooth robot core. Nearly 10,000 robot shells have been prepared. If there are enough cores, it will be a terrifying force in an instant. After Tsukimi Island got the core design, before returning to Sky Island, the research on the core of the machine has already started on the Platinum D-Drake. This is the 5th edition, and of course the previous editions have failed. Vlad did not mean to criticize Enel. After all, he was a halfway monk. Even if he had a complete design drawing, even if he had the design drawing of the production line, mistakes were inevitable. Vlad forgave Enel. I have been forgiven 4 times. Are you sure? God. Vlad picked up a robot body from the ground and asked, is there any problem? Are you sure it's not useless? It won't explode. What Vlad was talking about was the problem with the first 4 editions. At first, the first edition was useless, like a stone. After the second edition was installed, it exploded immediately. The robot in the 3rd edition did not explode, but he went berserk, and in the end he blew himself up. The most powerful 4th edition, the 4th edition was unprecedented without any flaws. Instead, it was over-optimized. As soon as the robot opened its eyes, it shouted, "Freedom, that's enough." Absolutely not this time. Enel looked full of confidence, took the robot body from Vlad's hand, and directly stuffed the core into it, and started the robot directly. Vlad silently took 2 steps back. In case of an explosion, although he was not afraid of being injured, it would not be good to have a dark face when he was bombed. Cut, you wait and see, Captain. Enel was very upset that Vlad looked down on himself like this, and said, this time it will be successful. Wait and see. Vlad said that, but he didn't mean to move forward at all. After a short wait, with a dull low sound, the position of the robot's eyes suddenly lit up, and two faint lights flickered there. Clang. The robot stood up and stood straight in front of Vlad. Oh. Come. Enel is not as arrogant as usual, and now he is extremely excited, like a father who was sitting outside the hospital and heard the cry of his child's birth. This is an unspeakable excitement. Things to avoid. Master. The robot Vivi turned his head, and then saw Vlad standing behind Enel. Vivi turned around and said to Vlad like that, not as agile as the robots made by Dr. Eugen, but Vlad hoped it is not agile, such a level is completely enough. Oh, did it finally succeed this time? Vlad also looked a little happy, and he stepped forward to hold the robot in his hand and said in surprise. Not bad, Enel. Yeah ha. Enel is very complacent, this god is omnipotent. Woo ha ha. Coco. Boom, quote. There was a flash of fire, and it was not a small explosion. Well. The black smoke cleared, and Vlad, whose face was dark, said, did you do this on purpose? I continue. Enel, whose face was also dark, consciously said, it will be fine next time. Yeah, no problem. Vlad said, as a self-exploding weapon, there is no problem at all. Woo. Dash. Cool. Vlad, who came out of the bathroom wrapped in a large bath towel, looked at the chef who brought him the food, and said a little unhappily, I really shouldn't trust that guy Enel. Hee. Because the station is very large, and many people in the pirate group do not eat on time, but eat separately, the chef who specially came to deliver lunch to Vlad smiled. Enel is not a professional after all. I know. Vlad said, of course I do. By the way, Captain, what shall we do next? The chef asked casually. Yes. Vlad sat down, what's next? Time flies so fast. Get ready, chef, the most turbulent times on this sea have arrived. Whether we are riding the waves soaring into the sky or being smashed into the bottom of the sea by huge waves depends on this time. The time is now, see circle calendar 1520, when the wind blows. Chapter 364 Blowing the Sails of the Times. Yeah ha. Success. This time finally succeeded. At an altitude of 10,000 meters, the huge flying pirate ship floating quietly in the sky, above the Platinum D-Drag, suddenly came very excited, as if it had won several 100 million. Excited. Crackling. Captain, there must be no problem this time. Blue and white lightning flashed, and Enel was dancing with a robot in his hands, which turned into a thunderbolt and appeared on the deck, and said excitedly to Vlad. Oh tilde is it? Platinum D-Drag, there are 3 large parasols and 3 lounge chairs below. Vlad and the maid and the musician lady are lying on it very leisurely, and there are special chefs next to them. The dessert drinks are very enjoyable. Although it will not be hot at such a high altitude, it will even be a little cold. Although it is approaching evening, because there is no cloud cover, the sun is really strong. Although Vlad doesn't care, it is obvious that the ship the 2 women of S are very concerned about being tanned. This is the 13th time you said that. Vlad put his hands behind his head, half asleep and half awake. Very lazy, it's amazing. God, you blew up the laboratory on Sky Island, and now you don't even put the laboratory on the ship. Has it been over? Che, let him pass the past, this time is different. Enel was very excited and put the robot on the ground, this time it is indeed a success. Some deep voices, this robot has been activated by Enel. And with a click, the robot has stood up from the ground, looking dumbfounded. Look. With a smug smile on the corner of Enel's mouth, no problem this time. Click. The robot walked to Vlad's side step by step, raised its head. Master. Hey, Enel, let him go a little further. Vlad half straightened up, propped his right hand on the reclining chair and supported his head. What if it exploded again? I said no. Enel glared, then smiled. Besides, Captain, you are the highest authority on this guy. He won't walk away until you speak. It's really troublesome. Vlad looked a little limp. Okay, in my name, go, soldier, beat Enel. VV's red light flashed. Yes, master. Hey, Captain. Enel looked a little unhappy. Whoosh. Enel in the blink of an eye, and a small fist slammed towards Enel. I have to say, the quality of individual soldiers, these robots are far superior to the elite marine soldiers. At least have a level of 100 Dao strength. Crackling. The electric light flashed, and the weak electric light directly hit the robot. The electric light flickered on the robot's body, but it was not moving. Enel, who had been able to create a dragon-toothed soldier through self-study, could of course also short-circuit the robot through electric current. Hey, Captain, this is a hard work to do. Enel carefully received the fruits of his labor and protested. Oh, it looks like a real success. Not bad. Vlad lay back on the recliner. God, that's great. Blue blue blue. Quote. Suddenly, some loud noises rang out from Vlad's trouser pocket. Oh. Vlad's eyes began to glow. He took out the phone bug from his pocket, and said, the wind is blowing. Click. Hey, do you have any good news to tell me? Yes, Lord Vlad. Platinum D-Drake did not fly in paradise, but hovered above the new world. The wind of the times has begun to blow. Dash 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 dash. East Blue, the weakest sea area in the world, but it is also the sea area where One Piece, King of Pirates, was born and ended. Just today, the turbulent waves are surging from here. Place that is not well known even in the category of East Blue. In East Blue, I don't know how many small villages like this exist. There is really nothing special here, and of course there is no reputation. However, in fact, few people know that this place is the hometown of Marine legend Vice Admiral, Marine hero, Garp the Fist, and of course the leader of the Revolutionary Army, the most dangerous man in the world, the hometown of dragons, and the Whitebeard pirate. The 2nd Regiment Captain, Fire Fist Ace's hometown, is truly an amazing place. Just today, another amazing guy is going to see. He. Goodbye everyone. A man in a small sampan-like boat, wearing a red vest and a pair of shorts, waved his hand to say goodbye to the residents gathered on the shore with a big smile on his face. Luffy, cheer up. Ha, there is a great guy coming out of Windmill Village. The residents on the shore looked very happy, and they didn't think there was anything wrong with this. How time flies. The woman with green hair exclaimed, it's been 10 years before you know it. It's time for Luffy to go to sea. After Ace, Luffy is going too. This woman sighed, but this is something that I have known for a long time. Really, will I feel a little lonely in the future? Cut, that kid Ace is like this, so is Luffy kid. It's a shame for our town to go to be a pirate. The old man with a cane beside him said dissatisfiedly, do pirates have such a big attraction? Don't say that, Mayor. Maid smiled, children go after their dreams, we just need to watch from the back. Humph. The stubborn old man snorted coldly and didn't care. He, today is really a suitable weather for going to sea. The man with the straw hat, whose name is Monkey D. Luffy, was standing on the boat, holding the straw hat in his hand, looking at the shimmering sea surface under the sun, very happy. Gu. Well. Luffy turned his head, and then put on an excited smile on his face. He had noticed that something was about to come out of the sea. Wow. The sea was turbulent all of a sudden, and Luffy's boat drifted with the wind under such waves, and was in danger of capsizing at any time. It's finally here. Gently pressing the straw hat on his head, Luffy's mouth widened into a wide smile. Roar! Appearing in front of him was a giant beast with water droplets spilling on its ferocious sharp teeth, a body as slender as a fish, and most of its tawny body was still soaked in water. He finally appeared, king of the sea. Just let you see. Rubber rubber. The man on the boat was not afraid at all, even if this beast was a monster that had cast a heavy shadow on him 10 years ago. His right hand slammed back, and a strange thing happened. The arms are getting longer and longer, of course, after all, he is Paramesha, the rubber fruit ability. Roar! The giant beast pounced directly at the boat, intending to swallow Luffy directly. The small boat was really worthless in front of him. Pistol! The man with the straw hat didn't feel any fear at all. He shouted loudly, his fists extending backwards ripped through the air, bounced forward rapidly, and slammed directly into the face of the giant beast. The giant beast only had time to whine before it was blasted out and landed on the sea far away. Crack! The fist retracted quickly. Luffy smiled. 10 years of fist training. Have you tasted how good I am? Stupid fish. Huh, okay. Next, we're going to gather our partners first. Well, at least 10, right? Luffy sits in the boat, clenching his fingers. And then, the Great Root. Ace, Shanks, wait for me. One Piece King of Pirates. I'm sure. Chapter 365 Deck from the World. The New World is a sea area that will never be lonely. Every day, I don't know how many ambitious people come in. Every day, I don't know how many unwilling and lonely guys fight on this sea area. A sea area is soaked with blood. Today, of course, is no exception. The tragic battle is still going on. The firelight illuminated the dark sea area under the thick dark clouds. The large ship was almost completely wrapped in flames. It looked crumbling and seemed to sink at any time. There was a slightly smaller ship very close to the big ship, but it didn't seem to be a big problem, but there were a few holes in the deck and the side of the ship, which looked like they had been shelled. The battle continued on the flame-filled ship. When? Damn! The surging force, and his back slammed into the burning cabin. The temperature made this man very uncomfortable. The man was panting with a hoo in his mouth, and glanced at the deck from the corner of his eye. In a very tragic battle, he could clearly see that his crew members fell one by one. Damn! Roaring so furiously, the man firmly grasped the long sword in his hands and rushed towards the enemy. Oh, it's so bloody. Wearing a white chef's uniform, the brown-haired man has a sword in both hands. Like the swordsman Sakata of the Dragon Pirates, he is a swordsman with 2 swords. The man named Thatch is not afraid at all, laughing. Right. Almost scared me. When? Although he said that he was almost frightened, in fact, Thatch just flicked the knife in his left hand lightly, and he easily avoided the man's sword. Almost at the same time, the sword in his right hand was like a phantom, heavy the next wave. PFF'd. Just like a rag doll, the man was directly slashed by Thatch's sword, and his chest was directly split. Whether it was skin, muscles, bones, or internal organs, everything was cut by Thatch's sword. The battle, at this point, can already be declared over. PFF'd. The man lay helplessly on the ground, a mouthful of blood spurting out of his mouth. It's over. Thatch took 2 steps forward, stood where the man lying on the ground could see, and smiled. I thought you could hold on for a while longer. Damn. Yuck. Blood poured out of the man's mouth, and the wound frantically poured out. Whitebeard pirates. Stupid guy. The name is Thatch, the identity is the leader of the Blue Sea's strongest pirate group, the captain of the 4th Division of the Whitebeard Pirates, the beloved son of the world's strongest man. The man with 2 swords said, from you to our partners should know the results when they start. Everyone on this sea knows what it's like to do something to our comrade. Thatch looks very serious. He is not a person to kill, or in other words, he is a person who likes to enjoy. Very happy, he doesn't even like fighting. If he has time, he prefers to go to happy street going around. I'm not in the mood to beat people to death at all. But, as he said himself, he can't forgive the guy who shot his partner, since he has provoked the Whitebeard pirates. Of course he can't let it go. This is, Thatch, this is, the Whitebeard pirates. Since the shot has been made, no matter what the result is, please accept it well for me. Thatch said so. Can. The man lying on the ground lost his life. In the New World, there will never be a shortage of such a guy who tried to challenge the 4 emperors and ended up with a dead body. Really, there's never going to be a shortage of guys like this. Thatch put the 2 swords in his hands back into their scabbards and sighed. Captain Thatch. It was at this time that the battle on the other side had already come to an end. The subordinates led by Thatch had won a great victory, and they had easily defeated the pirates on the opposite side. Not even a single one was seriously injured, not just the high-ranking officers. In terms of combat power, even at the grassroots level, the 4 Emperor's pirates are far superior to ordinary pirates. Oh, Morik, it's all settled. Thatch greeted his subordinates with a smile. Well. Gently flicking the blood from the sword and inserting the long sword back into the scabbard, the man named Morik replied softly, it's all settled. Ha ha ha, how reliable, Morik. Thatch patted his subordinate on the shoulder, looking very satisfied. That's right, Captain. There was a smile on Morik's face. This ship is about to sink. You have to be quicker to loot the spoils. Ha ha ha, that's right, that's right. Thatch laughed and walked towards the cabin first. The raging flames were not something that could not be resisted by the powerhouses who had mastered armament hockey. Even the Whitebeard pirates need expenses, and it is precisely because of the strength of the pirates that the required expenditures are even greater. The Whitebeard pirates are certainly not fishing for a living. Protection fees and routes like this after defeating the enemy. Searching for loot is the main source of income for the pirates. Quick, Morik, don't be stunned. Everyone who knows hockey is here. Although it is the Whitebeard pirates, there are not many guys in a squad who can master hockey. Fortunately, this ship is not too big. Soon, under the search of a group of pirates with extraordinary strength, all the valuable things of this ship were moved to another ship not far away. Ha 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 ha, great harvest. Thatch looks very happy. Although this pirate group is beyond its own power, it is really rich. Going jewelry and other things add up to at least 200 million Baileys, right? To celebrate, there is a banquet tonight. Thatch laughed so hard. Oh. There was jubilation on the boat. Ha 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 ha. Thatch likes to laugh, and this pirate group can make him laugh too. Me. Then Thatch saw a small box, and it was locked. What came from? Thatch picked up the box with some curiosity, turned to look at his proud subordinate. Morik, come. Brush. The gleaming knife light was fleeting, and Thatch barely felt the slightest impact, and the lock on the box had already been split in two. Yes, Morik, swordsmanship has improved again. Thatch smiled like that and opened the box. Well. This thing is. Thatch looked surprised and took out a fruit from the box. This is really a big harvest. Well. Morik's eyes suddenly condensed. The shape of this fruit is very similar to what a certain man told him. Chapter 366 Teach. The color of lavender. It looks like a pineapple, with patterns like the shell of a snail. It doesn't look like a serious fruit. This is a devil fruit. Thatch looked very surprised. Although devil fruits are not uncommon in the New World, just speaking of Thatch himself, he has killed many fruits. However, in terms of the population base of the New World, the ability is indeed very rare. Not to mention, devil fruits that haven't been eaten by humans are even rarer. Thatch has been with Whitebeard for so many years, and he has not entered devil fruits too many times. This is the first time he has found them. Ha 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 ha, great harvest. This time is really a great harvest. Thatch laughed and looked very happy. Even the cheapest devil fruit can be sold for a high price of 100 million Bailey. He really understands this. although he doesn't know what the devil fruit is. But it shouldn't be a problem to sell a few 100 million, right? So Thatch is very happy, just laying down. The pirate group will have a few months' expenses, and a bountiful harvest. Ha 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 ha, have a banquet, have a banquet. Thatch laughed so loudly, and the lively atmosphere began to permeate the deck. Although the time was still in the afternoon, this did not affect the men having a banquet. As long as there was a noisy heart, a banquet could be held at any time. Soon, the rich aroma of wine began to permeate the deck, and the aroma of barbecued meat could make everyone's mouth water, and the lively banquet kicked off. The pirates on the ship started their daily hustle and bustle, laughing, making noise, drinking and eating meat. It was really a very happy life. Hiccup tilde. Hey, what's the matter? Hiccup tilde. The greasy man wrapped his arms around Morik's shoulder with his right hand. Facing his drunk captain, Morik looked a little helpless. Captain, you must leave a sober person at the helm. Otherwise, we might be at the bottom of the sea when we sober up. Cut, it's so boring. Such a muttering, Thatch walked towards the deck 3 by 1, mingling with the equally drunk pirates. Quote. Morik was a little silent. Looking at his partner not far away, he was a little silent. He turned his head and went to the cockpit. As he said, there must be someone at the helm. The sea in the New World is never calm. Woo. Morik let out a slow sigh of relief and took out a phone bug from his pocket with a hesitant expression on his face. Morik didn't start out as the guy he is now that a man like Thatch would find reliable. In fact, he was a very unlikable guy at first, until one day he met someone. A man, a very powerful man, a man he could not resist at all. Morik will never forget, that day, the extremely beautiful bell that fell from the sky. At that time, he finally realized that people's dreams can really extend infinitely. So, he came to the New World, so he joined the Whitebeard pirates under the arrangement of the man, and then, today, he finally saw what the man made him wait for. However, at this moment, he was far from the decisiveness he had when he agreed to the man's request. Something was holding him back. Really, what are you hesitating about? Morik laughed a little self-deprecatingly, and dialed a number. Blue. Quote. Click. Hey, do you have any good news for me? Very low, man's voice. Yes. Morik took a deep breath and replied, Lord Vlad. Yo, Marco. The smiling man stepped onto the deck of the huge ship and greeted his companions who were leisurely leaning on the side of the ship. Thatch. The man with the pineapple head and the dead fish eyes looked a little lazy. I came back very early this time. Ha ha ha, the opponent is too weak. Thatch smiled. The people on this ship were like brothers. This time the harvest is not small. Really, what's the catch? Another man came up from the other side, topless, with a lot of freckles on his face covered by black hair, with a bright smile. He was very familiar and leaned over behind Thatch, where Thatch was placed. The booty this time, let me see too. Ace, you guy. Thatch laughed and scolded, you, so welcome. Hey. Ace smiled, oh, that's amazing. The brilliant golden light in several boxes is a bit dazzling. It's amazing. Thatch, there must be at least 200 million Baileys here, right? Ace looked a little surprised. Hey, that is. Thatch rubbed his nose, who am I? So, great Captain Thatch. Ace smiled, suddenly picked up a pile of gold, turned around and ran, give me half of it. Ace. Thatch was taken aback, although he cursed, you bastard. Give it back to me. Ha ha ha, what a stingy. Thatch. Ace, who had an empty hand, looked a little unhappy. Hey, was it my fault that I was robbed? Thatch was a bit dumbfounded, and threw a bag of gold to Ace, take it. Don't say bro, I'm stingy. Oh, thanks, generous Captain Thatch. Ace was also polite and took it. By the way, Ace, I found something interesting this time. Thatch took the devil fruit he got from his pocket. Look, devil fruit. Oh. Ace looked surprised, took the devil fruit from Thatch's hand and looked up and down. It's really a devil fruit. Of course it is. Thatch said casually. Of course, what neither of them noticed was that behind Ace, a member of the second division of the Whitebeard Pirates, a man named Teach looked at the fruit in Ace's hand with a dull look, and then, a little bright. A smile hung on the corner of his mouth. Want to eat, Thatch? Ace threw the fruit back to Thatch and asked. I don't know. Thatch looked a little tangled, and shoved the fruit into his pocket. Not everyone wanted to eat the fruit, and the bad fruit was really not worth sacrificing swimming ability for a man like Thatch. Let's talk about it later. The fruit won't run away anyway. Thatch smiled. By the way, I remember there was a commercial island nearby. Thatch put on a wretched smile on his face. Go and play. Ace, together. I'll let it go. Ace smiled. I'm not interested in what you want to do. Che, what a child. Ace. Thatch turned around and walked away. Speak to Daddy for me. By the way, give these treasures to Daddy too. The expenses for the past few months should be enough. Oh. Ace nodded. Captain Thatch. A little excited, the voice of the man who seemed to be looking forward to it sounded, take me with you too. Ha ha ha, Teach. Thatch turned his head and laughed loudly. Sure enough, you kid understands me. Let's go, let's go. Teach, you bastard. Ace had a bit of a hatred that iron could not become steel, and his subordinates actually had a hot fight with Thatch. Hey. Teach hey Isho, followed behind Thatch. Hey, let's go, 4th Division. Thatch laughed loudly, have fun today too. Oh 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 oh. Cheers rose to the sky. In the crowd, Morik looked at Thatch a little guilty, Captain Thatch. At the same time, Teach looked at Thatch a little strangely. Ziahaha, Captain Thatch. Wait for me. Chapter 367 It chose me. The night has shrouded the sea, but it has not shrouded the people who are active on the sea. Although the sea is already dark, the city is still brightly lit. X23 US. Com updates fastest. After all, pirates do not have any concept of time. As long as they are happy, no matter what time, no matter where, the banquet and enjoyment will not stop. Thatch is really a man who can enjoy very much, which is almost recognized in the Whitebeard Pirates. He never stings to make himself happier. This is really a very happy guy. Ha 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 ha, awesome, he he he. Just like an idiot, the man named Thatch had a pink face, and a strong smell of alcohol came out of his mouth. This place is awesome, hiccup tilde. Thatch waved his hands, trying to make his speech sound more authoritative. It's just a little bit worse than Happy Street. He stretched out his right thumb and pinched the tip of his little finger, indicating that it was just a little bit like this. There's not much difference except that there is no beautiful lady boss like Stussy. Hiccup tilde tilde. Morik on the side looks a little powerless. Although this city also has a red light district, it is positioned as a tourist city, okay. Don't think that there is only a red light district here because you only visit the red light district, okay. With 2 people on his back and 1 person on each hand, these guys were drinking high as usual. Stussy on Happy Street is really beautiful. Perhaps, she is no worse than the legendary world's #1 beauty, the Empress, right? Hiccup tilde the wine is also good. Thatch slipped on the soles of his feet and almost fell to the ground. Morik took a step forward with discernment and supported his captain. Really, Captain Thatch, don't drink too much if you can't drink. Morik complained naturally. Who says I can't drink? Thatch immediately retorted, I can still drink 5 more. No, 10, no, 800. Yes yes yes, 800 barrels. Morik felt like a dad who watched his son get drunk, and he was helpless enough. Ziahahaha, what a great relationship. Such laughter came from one side, with a well-meaning mocking man's voice. Instead, Captain Thatch is like a younger brother. I often feel that way too. Morik nodded in agreement. The man named Thatch was always uneasy. Thank you anyway. Teach, if it weren't for you, I'd be in trouble tonight. The tall, rounded man is holding two people in each of his hands, one person under his left and right armpits, and several people behind his back, which can be said to be very powerful. Nothing. Teach winked and said, anyway, it's Captain Thatch's treat today. Ha ha ha. Morik smiled back, you look very honest, and the results are similar to the captain. Ziahaha, man, it's almost there. Teach looked very happy. Okay, Teach, let's go back to the boat, we'll go back tomorrow when the captain and the others wake up a bit. Morik said so. Okay. Teach laughed, it couldn't be better. Well, let's go. Morik took the lead, with a complicated look in his heart. Is that man coming soon? Dash 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 dash. The thick night shrouded this piece of coast. A ship was quietly parked on the shore, and there was nothing around it. Of course, the flag of Whitebeard was hung on this ship. Even in the New World, there were not many people dare to challenge the authority of this monster. The people of the 4th Division of the Whitebeard Pirates all slept very deeply. They experienced a battle yesterday, then rushed back non-stop, and then experienced a battle. They were really sleepy. Yeah. Pain pain pain. Some distressed voices echoed in the night. The man in white clothes and white pants, Thatch, walked out of the cabin door without opening his eyes, as if he was sleepwalking, rubbing his head with his hands, looking a little uncomfortable, shaking out of the cabin door. Ah, did you drink too much again? Really? Thatch swayed to the side of the boat, jumped up, stood on the side of the boat, and slowly stretched his hands down. With the sound of clattering, Thatch let out a slow sigh of relief, then shivered violently. Captain Thatch, you always carry that fruit with you. Suddenly, such a voice came from behind him. I didn't find it in your room. Some deep, no longer the usual laughing and very familiar man's voice. Wow. Thatch was so frightened that he almost fell under the boat dancing. But fortunately, the strength of the captain of the 4th Division of the Whitebeard Pirates is not to be underestimated. Even if he is drunk, it is the same. He easily regained his balance. Thatch jumped off the side of the ship, turned his head, and opened his eyes. Really, I'm terrified, Teach. Thatch complained. You guy, can't you say hello when you show up? Ziahaha, sorry, Captain Thatch. Teach felt a little embarrassed and took 2 steps forward. I'm a little too anxious. Fortunately I have solved it. Thatch seemed to have some lingering fears, otherwise, you will really be scared into the sea. I don't want to fall into the sea, especially in the sea just now. Ziahaha. Teach patted Thatch's shoulder with a smile. Sorry, Captain Thatch. So late. Hey. Thatch screamed suddenly, and a short knife had literally stabbed into his heart from behind him. The brain paralyzed by alcohol was obviously unable to respond in time to the sneak attack that was unavoidable even in a normal state. Sorry, Captain Thatch. Bloody dagger in hand, Teach, Marshal D. Teach, laughing so. I'm a little too anxious. Teach. Thatch looked back in disbelief, not understanding why the old brother who had been with him for decades suddenly attacked him. Bang. Teach made a good attack, but he didn't stop. He grabbed Thatch's shoulder with his left hand, and hit Thatch's defenseless head with his fist, which was covered with a powerful hockey. Boom. Kara. Then. Bang. 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 Kara. Several consecutive punches slammed into Thatch's head without reservation, accompanied by a terrifying crackling sound of bones shattering. Crack. Teach threw Thatch, who was completely unconscious, with more air in and out, like a rag doll, on the deck. Ziahaha, ziahaha ha ha. Don't blame me. The man who killed his comrade said. Captain Thatch, don't blame me. It chose me. It's fate. I am the one chosen by fate. Ziahaha ha ha. Teach, quote. Teach, back fiercely. Zia. Chapter 368 My Treasure. Morik's strength is not weak. When he met Vlad for the first time, his bounty was close to 60 million. Then he attacked the New World all the way, learned hockey, and joined the Whitebeard Pirates. Even if the strength of the Whitebeard Pirates is placed on the level of a leader, although it is not comparable to the level of a captain, let alone a captain like Marco, compared to the pirates in the New World, his strength is definitely not weak. Especially now that Morik is very angry. He felt guilty about his partner for selling out information. Just after he was here, after the last report of Vlad and their location, the man couldn't sleep at all. Some hesitantly wanted to go to the deck to blow the air, and then, just saw the scene where Teach bombarded Captain Thatch with a heavy punch and threw it on the deck. For Morik, what kind of existence is Thatch? It's a bit strange. At first, Morik only sneaked into the Whitebeard Pirates as Vlad's inner response. However, this man named Thatch is really strange. He has a kind of person who can easily make him a friend. The ability of Morik was hit without exception. At least now, Morik wants to avenge his friend. Teach. Quote. With such a roar, the sword in his hand was already pitch black, and Armament Hockey used it with all his strength. Morik can hardly feel the passage of time. He feels that he is faster than time, the surrounding scenery is blurred, and he can't see anything clearly, but he can still see the man in front of him, the one who hurt him, the best friend's man. Every time he took a step, the deck under his feet would shatter, and Morik's speed would soar. Before he could blink, his sword had already stabbed in front of Teach. Zia. When? Laughing wildly, what made Morik stunned just happened. The huge fist slammed heavily on the tip of his sword. Hey! A terrifying giant force came from the hilt, and Morik cried out in pain, but he couldn't hold the sword in his hand at all. Crack! The long sword came out of his hand and flew into the sky in a whirl, not knowing where it flew. Damn! In a short moment, Morik's heart was full of thoughts, such a terrifying power. Teach, is this guy hiding so deep? No, it seems that I heard Captain Ace say that he was going to be the captain of the 2nd Division at that time. That is to say, does this guy actually have the strength of the captains of the previous divisions? Morik. Who was visiting the custom street together before, the man named Teach didn't mean to keep his hand at all, and the huge fist wrapped hockey and slammed into Morik's chest. Crack. Boom. What an amazing power. Even though Morik had used hockey to strengthen his chest in advance, it was still of no use under the bombardment of Teach's thick arms. His chest collapsed directly, and his body smashed into the cabin behind. Zihaha. Such a smile. Teach was very proud. This time, no one can stop me. Kai. The voice of the man who was very weak, and seemed to die at any moment, rang out. Yeah, not dead yet. Teach looked very surprised, and then looked a little clear, as expected of Captain Thatch, such a tenacious vitality. You bastard, what do you want to do? Thatch was lying on the ground completely unable to move, his heart had been directly pierced, and Teach had punched him several times in the head. It was a miracle that he wasn't dead yet. What do you want to do? Thief. Ziahaha. Teach's originally simple and honest face was like a different person in an instant, and indescribable arrogance and malice appeared on his face. Does it need to be said? Of course it is. One Piece King of Pirates. Quote. Ziahahaha, thank you so much. Teach smiled and walked to Thatch's side. Captain Thatch, I was about to give up. I was going to spend my life with the Whitebeard Pirates, but. Teach bent down and took the purple devil fruit from Thatch's pocket, with a pattern like a snail's shell. But, thank you so much. Captain Thatch, he brought it to me again, and brought my hope to me. Is your purpose just this? Thatch looks incredible. Just. Teach suddenly looked angry, and then he laughed again, very proud, with a wild smile. Of course you don't know. Teach, like all villains, always likes waves after he has the upper hand. Even, his arrogance is still higher than most villains. After he believes that he has controlled the situation, he and the old god is still there to make Thatch's death clear. The name of this fruit is the dark fruit, and it belongs to the strongest type, the devil fruit of Logia. However, even among the Logias that are powerful, it is the most special Logia devil fruit, and it is said to be a vicious devil fruit. Not an exaggeration, you know. Captain Thatch. Teach smiled, I've been with the Whitebeard pirates for decades just for it. The result didn't disappoint me, the Whitebeard pirates really are the closest place to it. You. Thatch's red eyes widened indistinctly. Teach's behavior could already be described as a lunatic. How could a normal person bet half his life for an illusory possibility? Ziahaha, well, that's about it. Captain Thatch is suffering too. Teach raised his leg, let me end your pain. Let's go a long way. Teach, quote. Bang. Teach Vivi turned his head, and a bullet smeared his cheek and flew into the sky. Really, there are so many so-called guys. Behind him, the pirates with live ammunition and angry faces have sobered up from their drunkenness. Leave, the team is a little longer. Morik leaned against one of his partner's shoulders, panting softly. Not dead yet. Teach looked a little surprised, it's a pity it's too weak, or maybe he can be my partner. Teach, you have committed an unforgivable sin. Among the pirates, someone said, Whitebeard pirates, the most unforgivable crime, hurting your comrades. Take it easy, Teach, you are already our enemy. Ziahaha, enemy. Teach laughed, who cares about this? Stupid. Well, just right, you guys just let me try the power of this fruit. Teach's eyes lit up at the fruit in his hand. Stupid. Let go. There. The white gold light fell from the sky and hit Teach's arm holding the fruit. That's my stuff. Chapter 369 Vlad and Blackbeard. Hey. The flame ray easily opened a small hole on the deck, as if it was not a cluster of flames, but a live ammunition weapon. Without the slightest wave, it easily opened a hole on the deck. X-23 US. Com updates fastest. Hot hot. Named Teach covered his arms with an exaggerated expression, staring at the sky with a gloomy expression. Whoosh. The fiery red lightning ripped through the night sky, and even in the deepest night, the figure of this man could be easily found. The fiery red dragon man had fluttered his wings and descended from the sky, floating on the deck. Thief, Ziahaha. Teach started to sweat a little on his forehead. Hey, just kidding. Why is a big man like you here? Call. There is only one dragon fruit in the world, so of course, the person who came can only be Vlad himself, and he slowly breathed a sigh of relief. Vlad looked a little fortunate. Fortunately, it came in time, just a little bit. Vlad was a little scared. If he came later, the fruit he had been waiting for would really be eaten by Blackbeard. The dark fruit is something that he already wanted to get as soon as he came to this world. Needless to say, the ability of the dark fruit can definitely be called the strongest series of devil fruits. The ability to restrain all abilities is really very powerful. Eye-catching ability, Vlad really wanted. But then the plan couldn't keep up with the changes, so he left the Big Mom group in a hurry, and then got the dragon fruit, which is also extremely powerful. However, this does not mean that Vlad gave up on the dark fruit. In fact, Vlad has never stopped trying to get dark fruits. Morik is his arrangement. It is very simple and rude, but it turns out to be a very useful arrangement. Vlad doesn't know when the dark fruit will appear, but as long as he knows, if there is no accident, Thatch is the most likely the man who encountered the dark fruit, just sent someone to follow Thatch. After Vlad got the fire dragon fruit, the demand for the dark fruit is not so strong. After all, the fire dragon fruit is not weak, and, if nothing else, Vlad can only eat one fruit, the dark fruit is honest. It's useless to get it, but, even if it's useless, Vlad can't stand such ability being obtained by others. Most of Vlad's strength is now linked to the dragon fruit. If the dark fruit is eaten by Blackbeard, how will he fight this guy? The dark fruit, Vlad is bound to get it. Seeing that the dark fruit has not been eaten by Blackbeard, Vlad is also relieved. Since it has not been eaten, there is no problem, even if he can't get it. It doesn't matter, as long as it is not eaten by the Blackbeard. This man is too dangerous. Oh, this is the first time we meet. Vlad landed gently on the side of the boat, his wings folded, his arms crossed his chest. I wanted to meet you a long time ago. Marshall D. Teach. Ziahaha. If there is no Vlad, the future will become the new 4 emperors. The man known as Blackbeard has a conspicuous cold sweat on his forehead, staring at Vlad, and then laughs. It's actually the fire dragon Fu, one of the king's Shichibukai. Rad, what an unexpected surprise. Woo ha ha. Vlad smiled. Yeah, surprise, right. It can be said that the man Marshall D. Teach is the man Vlad is most afraid of in this world. This crazy man has the courage to surpass 99% of the guys in this sea. He clearly has the belief of being king, but he can live it for a fruit. It is not something that ordinary people can do to waste decades on other people's boats. Vlad has always thought so. If the Straw Hat is the protagonist on this sea, then the guy in front of him is the villain. No one can compare to him except the Straw Hat. If there is no Vlad. If Vlad intervenes, then this man will probably be the Straw Hat's ultimate opponent in front of the throne. No one of the other 4 emperors can match them, not even the current Whitebeard. So, Vlad couldn't watch this man take off, he was too dangerous. This guy is Vlad the Fire Dragon. The pirate supporting Morik looked surprised. Why are you here? Why are you here? With the same doubts as the pirate, there is also Teach. This man looks very puzzled. Fire Dragon, why are you here? Why? Vlad smiled. Didn't you say that? That is. Vlad stretched out his hand, pointed to the dark fruit in Blackbeard's hand, and smiled. That's my thing. Thief. Blackbeard's laughter stopped abruptly. That's it. Is it for the fruit in my hand? Yeah. After all, the power of the dark fruit is really powerful, isn't it? Vlad said this as a matter of course. He raised his right hand, stretched out his right index finger, and the little flames converged on his fingers. So, take the dark fruit out of your mouth, okay? Ziahaha. Blackbeard's expression gradually cooled down. Even though he was smiling, he could no longer see a smile on his face. That is to say, do you want to take away what I have been waiting for decades? Yes. Vlad tilted his head and replied, is there any problem? After all, this fruit is really powerful. Hey, what a trick of fate. Blackbeard grinned wide, with an excited smile on his face. I didn't expect to fight a guy like you before going to sea, Ziahahaha. This is not good. Don't you want to give me the dark fruit directly? Vlad looked a little surprised. Do you want to fight me? Is this okay? I won't let go. Ziahahaha. Teach, it should be said that Blackbeard smiled like this. There is a time when men have to bet everything. It took me decades to wait for the dark fruit, and I can't let it go now. Interesting. Vlad smiled. Fire Dragon. That fruit is Captain Thatch's property. Suddenly, the man who was supporting Morik said so without any fear of Vlad in his tone. You don't even want to take it. Also, Teach is the enemy of our Whitebeard pirates, not yours. Huh. Vlad is a little confused. Don't these guys know the atmosphere? Is there room for them to speak at this time? Chapter 370 Blackbeard. Huh, are you kidding? Stupid. Vlad said in surprise, what are you talking about? Ziahahaha. Also laughing, there is Marshall D. Teach, this man also laughing, looking very dismissive. It is very important to see your partner, so the relic of your partner is not willing to miss it anyway, but because of this reason, I forgot my situation. Ziahaha, the Whitebeard pirates, what a big family. This man was extremely arrogant and smiled unbridledly. What an amazing pirate group. PFF tilde. Vlad suddenly laughed out loud. Hey, is it really good to say that? Teach, you were also a member of the Whitebeard pirates before, right? Isn't that scolding your former self? Ziahaha. Teach looked very unscrupulous. Just kidding. Fire Dragon, I'm just staying on that boat. Even though I was a member of that family before, I've run away from home. Ziahahaha. Teach, quote. You bastard, stop joking with me. The pirate who supported Morik's cheeks flushed red, and the blue veins burst out on his forehead. How can a guy like you be worthy of being a father's son? Ziahaha, then thank you. Teach narrowed his eyes and smiled. I don't want to be that old man's son for a long time. It's too old to look like it, so it's better to take care of it in an honest way. It's not theirs anymore. It's time. Ooh. Vlad smiled. I agree with you on that. Teach. It's my time now. Vlad said this as a matter of course. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Fire Dragon. Whitebeard's son gritted his teeth, his hand holding the sword trembled. Stop. Just when he was about to shoot, a trembling hand pressed on his. Stop, that man, you can't fight. Ziahaha, ziahahaha. Blackbeard smiled and said, that's right. It would be too stupid to take life for the sake of face, right? Morik, you are really good. Although you are a little weaker, if you are stronger, I want you to be my partner. Teach, you guy. Morik leaned weakly on his partner's shoulder. His tone was very cold. You better think about how to escape from the man in front of you. Ziahaha. Teach's smile remained the same, but the cold sweat on his forehead showed that the man was not so calm. That's right. Hey. Vlad glanced at Morik lightly. Since the other party didn't have the idea of standing with him, of course he wouldn't expose it. He is a person who respects others, as he has always been. Enough time wasted, Teach. Vlad stretched out his right hand and said in a low voice, give me the dark fruit. The thief, Ziahaha. Teach Vivi lowered his head, that's not good. Call. Vlad spread his hands, that means we have to fight, right? Could there be a second option? Teach opened his mouth wide, revealing his gums that were missing several teeth. Really? White gold flames soared into the sky, then go to hell. The fiery red figure wrapped in platinum flames flickered like lightning, and flashed directly in front of Teach. Vlad's wings slammed, his body twisted, and the dark armament hockey was covered with white gold flames. His calf ripped through the air and hit Teach's head heavily. Cut. Although Teach looks fat, his reaction is not slow at all. His hockey cultivation is extremely strong, which is a matter of course. The arm was raised quickly, and the black hockey covered it. Boom. The flames soared into the sky, and the terrifying power shook the world. The ship was trembling under Vlad's blow. The sound of clicking and clicking was endless, and the thick cracks started to spread from the deck to the surroundings. The ship seems to be about to crash like. Whoosh. In the flames, the huge body was directly swept away like a ball, and flew towards the shore far away. Not bad. Vlad looked a little surprised. Hockey like this guy is really amazing. However, it has been said. Vlad raised his hand and the flames began to gather at his fingertips. Keep your mouth away from my fruit. Scoff. Laser-like flame rays blazed out, piercing the night sky. It hurts. With such a scream, Teach was thrown far away to the shore under Vlad's turbulent power. Although he screamed, the man didn't seem to be afraid. His eyes were even a little excited, and his hands Guo put it into his mouth. He knew that it would be extremely difficult to defeat Vlad with his strength, but if he ate the dark fruit, he would not have a good chance of winning, but at least he had it. Odds. After all, Vlad is also capable. Those who are capable are not very easy to use in front of the dark fruit. Damn. However, the blazing flame rays interrupted his thoughts of eating. It really makes people unable to relax for a moment. Fire Dragon. The huge right fist was covered by armament hockey, and the heavy punch had already slammed into the flame ray. Crackling. The flames splashed everywhere, and the rays that could easily penetrate the rock were completely unable to take Blackbeard's fist. After all, this was just a casual blow from Vlad. Hey. Blackbeard only felt a flower in front of him, and the fiery figure had already flown above him with flames. "Don't rush, Teach." Vlad smiled like this, his right fist clenched tightly, and flames spewed out. Ziahaha. Really hospitable, fire dragon. Facing Vlad's fist that seemed to smash everything, Teach, who couldn't even master his balance while flying in the air, was still able to laugh happily. I have to say that this man does have a big heart. Then let's play and see. Teach was not afraid of Vlad's fist at all, he actually raised his left hand to meet Vlad's fist. What? Vlad was stunned for a moment, the right fist that was ready to go was actually loosened, and the flame was extinguished. He really couldn't get out this punch, because Blackbeard was holding a fruit in his hand. What Germany wants, dark fruit. Bang! It was the moment of hesitation that Blackbeard's right fist had hit Vlad's face heavily. Vlad's head turned white. It was a powerful punch. However, Vlad wasn't easy to mess with either. The moment he was blasted away by Teach's punch, he twisted his body abruptly, and his slender and sturdy tail slammed into Teach's stomach. Boom! A dark shadow was slammed into the ground. At the same time, Vlad was also blasted into the sky by Teach's punch. Chapter 371 Courage. Brush. Above the sky, Vlad slammed his wings and stabilized his body, with some admiration on his face covered with fiery red scales. It's amazing power. Amazing guy. Teach's punch is really powerful. Even though Vlad's face is covered with thick scales, it still leaves Vlad's head empty. The scales on his face are broken, and there is blood flowing from the corner of Vlad's mouth. Should I say, is it really Blackbeard? Vlad has never underestimated this guy Marshal D. Teach, nonsense, even one of the 4 emperors with red hair would be afraid of the guy. Could it be some simple role? Vlad naturally still can't get red hair now, so of course he won't underestimate this guy with Blackbeard. Therefore, when he was directly punched into the sky by Blackbeard, Vlad was also a little surprised, not by the power of Blackbeard, but by the crazy surprise of this man. What an amazing guy. After waiting for decades, he finally got the dark fruit in his hand. Blackbeard can actually be used to block Vlad's attack. Vlad is really surprised. Such a crazy, such courage. Vlad believes that it is difficult to imagine that such a man will not be a genius when he is favored by fate. To be honest, Blackbeard and Akainu were the 2 characters Vlad admired the most in his previous life. Akainu aside, Blackbeard is indeed a very powerful guy. Can you imagine it? It only took a year from going to sea to becoming the 4th emperor. Although I didn't see the end, Vlad believed that this man who always shouted his dreams and dared to bet everything on himself was probably only the straw hat. To be able to stop him, the rest of the 4 emperors are not qualified. However, to be able to play against such a guy. Happy and happy. Quote. Vlad smiled, so, this sea is really amazing. Teach. Quote. There. The flames surged out from Vlad's back, and in the blink of an eye, it turned into a little spark and rushed down to the ground. Teach. Let me kill you. Thief. Ziahaha. On the ground, the bloody fat man got up and wiped the blood on his forehead. Without any extra movement, Vlad's attack has arrived again. Meteor falling. Like a real shooting star, Vlad fell from the sky, flames spewing from his right leg, and armament hockey attached to it. What a monster. Teach didn't even bother to eat the dark fruit. Even if he hadn't been hit, he could feel the amazing high temperature coming from the air above, and his body was about to burn. Stretch. Teach's feet slammed hard, and the whole person jumped back directly, dodging Vlad's blow. Boom. Vlad did not withdraw his strength, and the flame meteor fell heavily on the ground. Kung. Quote. Among the flames rising into the sky is the same smoke and dust. Vlad's blow is really powerful. Carrara. Quote. Thick cracks began to spread everywhere, spreading from the place where Vlad bombarded to all around. Wow. Put down the boat. Take Captain Thatch, this ship is sinking. The spreading shock wave formed a huge wave on the sea, and the already crumbling ship was even more unbearable, and it looked like it would sink at any time. Is this the combat power of the King Shichibukai? Supporting Morik, the angry pirate before was shocked. Can such waves be able to set off such a far distance? The coast has been completely broken, such a terrifying force. I seem to see Captain Jozu. It's not surprising that the island was sunk. Quote. Diamond Jozu, the captain of the 3rd Division of the Whitebeard Pirates, the person with Diamond Fruit ability, is the strongest in the Whitebeard Pirates in terms of power. Of course it is. Morik's eyes were a little blurred, and he didn't know what he was thinking. He is Vlad the Fire Dragon. Just like what the pirate said, where Vlad and Blackbeard fought, this piece of coast was almost completely broken, and a good piece of coast had turned into a reef. Ziyahaha. Blackbeard smiled, and the tide of flames generated by Vlad's attack rushed straight towards him. The surrounding ground sank directly, and the solid ground turned into scorching magma. The temperature of such a flame was really high. Amazing. Is this the dragon fruit of mythical? Haki instantly covered his body, and Blackbeard's face was a little gloomy, much better than Captain Ace. Isn't that of course? In the flames, the shadow suddenly appeared, and Vlad had a fanatic smile on his face. Teach. Cut. It's really annoying. Asshole. Teach's face was not good looking. His body twisted suddenly, his thick right fist was already slammed, and then the other fist slammed into his fist. Boom. No one can underestimate the violent power. The strong shock wave lifted all the surrounding land, and the trees, soil, and rocks were thrown everywhere. Woo. Happy and happy. Quote. Vlad can feel that the opponent is no weaker than himself, and he is really a good opponent. Vlad smiled, and withdrew his right fist. At the same time, his left fist slammed up again. Cut. Teach's face sank. He no longer had his left hand to attack. Don't forget, he still held a dark fruit on his left hand. The devil fruit has no power to resist Vlad's attack. He knew very well that a guy like Vlad would never be threatened a second time. Ziyahahaha. Then, the man suddenly started laughing, clenching his fist with his left hand and banging it up. Ahahaha. Teach, you bastard. Vlad was even more excited, because he saw it with his own eyes. Blackbeard threw the dark fruit aside, and punched him heavily. Being able to put down the devil fruit that he spent decades waiting for. This man, Vlad thinks more and more, this guy is really an amazing guy. Boom. Neither side held back the slightest bit. Both of them knew that if they wanted to get that fruit, they had to kill each other. Giaaaaaa. Quote. Like a thunderclap, the surrounding environment completely changed under the two people's fights. Woo. Vlad Vivi took 2 steps back and smiled. Why don't we stay away? Vlad looked at the dark fruit that just landed on a large rock, and smiled. Otherwise, if this fruit is broken, then the fight will be in vain. Ziyahaha. Teach replied, it's always good for me to have you a little scruples. Hey Tilda. Vlad smiled, how bold. Chapter 372 Overwhelming. Indeed, Vlad is very concerned about the dark fruit, otherwise he would not let Morik sneak into the Whitebeard Pirates, and then flew to the New World in advance to wait for the fruit to appear. So Blackbeard is right, and if there is a battle near here, Vlad's attack will undoubtedly be limited. X23 US. Com updates fastest. However, there is no doubt that even if Vlad withdraws his strength, in terms of the combat power of the two, it is only an easy task to overturn the surrounding ground, so even if he is very restrained, then this fruit will it is easy to be completely destroyed, and the next time it appears, I don't know when it will be. So, Vlad said, the Teach guy is really aggressive. Hey, Fire Dragon, that guy Morik. Teach said suddenly, is it yours? Vlad looked surprised, why do you say that? After all, the only people from the 4th Division who know the dark fruit are here, as well as Captain Ace and me. But you actually got the news, why don't you think it's normal? No matter how much I think, you are the only one in the 4th Division. Someone on the team will know. Teach said, after all, Captain Ace can't be, and neither can I, so it's possible that it's someone from the 4th Division. Then why Morik? Vlad smiled. Ziahaha. Teach laughed. I guess. Guess what? Ahahaha. Vlad looked very happy and laughed. Then you guessed it right. Just tell me that directly. Teach's face sank, and his eyes had an indescribable viciousness. Yeah, nothing to hide. It doesn't look like Mr. Morik wants to leave the Whitebeard pirates, but it's nothing to tell you. Vlad said. After all, I'm not afraid of you speaking out, because... There. White gold flames spewed out from Vlad's body, rushing into the sky like a soaring ocean current. You're going to die here right now. The flames converged sharply, and Vlad, who was completely wrapped in white gold, appeared in front of Teach. The ring behind Vlad was like a dragon absorbing water, absorbing all the flames from the sky. Yanwei Wushan Jirong. Vlad decided to go all out and kill Teach directly, because he was a great man whom Vlad admired, so Vlad didn't want to show mercy. This. Cold sweat involuntarily slid down Teach's forehead. Vlad in Jirong mode didn't have any special momentum, but it gave him a creepy sense of fear. The thief, Ziahaha. Teach smiled with a guilty conscience. Is there still such a trick? Yeah, this is my strongest trick. Vlad nodded and replied, no surprise, yes, easily. Vlad's eyes suddenly opened, his eyes were slowly serious. Kill you. Killing you. 3 words. Vlad still stood in place when you just spit out the words, but after that, before the final sound came out, Vlad's body had appeared in front of Teach. What? Boom. There was no time to speak. Vlad's fist had already slammed into Blackbeard's belly. Vlad controlled it very well, and there was no excess power to escape, only the violent wind was blowing. PFF'd. A mouthful of blood spurted out, and Blackbeard's eyes were extremely shocked. Speed was not what he was good at in the first place. What this man was good at was standing and outputting. His strength was strength and durability. He couldn't keep up with Vlad at all. Speed. Whoosh. Just like a football, Fat Blackbeard was punched directly into the sky by Vlad. Neat. Vlad stood where he was, with his hands on the awning, and exclaimed, flying so high. Well. Vlad turned his head and saw the dark fruit on the side. Now no one can stop him from getting the fruit that he has been looking forward to for more than 20 years, but... Well, as a trophy, of course, you can't get it until you win. Vlad laughed so, because I already want to get this fruit, Teach. Scoff. The wind suddenly rose, and Vlad's figure had disappeared on the ground. Wow. Above the sky, Teach spewed out a large mouthful of blood again, with a somewhat frightened expression on his face. Damn. Such power. As expected of a fire dragon who was willing to offer a bounty of 700 million, what a terrible guy. Hey, are you complimenting me? Very abruptly, such a voice appeared behind Teach. What? Teach's eyes widened suddenly, so fast. Sorry Teach, your dream ends today. Hey. The air crackled like firecrackers. Vlad clenched his right fist, and the part down his forearm began to emit strong light like a light bulb, and the terrifying temperature spread. Open what? Boom. Scoff. Ah. Vlad's expressionless punch slammed into the back of Blackbeard. This time there was no flame spread, because something more terrifying happened. Vlad's fist hit Blackbeard like a red branding iron. Like falling on butter, it directly melted Blackbeard's back. Even if Blackbeard had an amazing armament hockey defense, Vlad's fist had already stabbed into Blackbeard's back like this. Blackbeard made an inhuman scream, which is of course, Vlad's fist has been stabbed into his body, unscrupulously releasing flames in his stomach. Even for a moment, Blackbeard's internal organs should also be destroyed, burned a lot. Woo. The air looked a little overwhelmed. Vlad pulled out his hand lightly. Vivi fluttered his wings and stepped back, easily avoiding Blackbeard's punch, with a satisfied smile on his face. This move is not bad, just like it is like a Kainu's magma fist. When it hits the body, it is a hole, and the lethality is terrifying. Damn. Blackbeard's head was dripping with sweat, and the blood from the corners of his mouth kept pouring down. His injuries were now comparable to those of Whitebeard, who was pierced through the chest by a kainu during the war. With just one move, the battle situation has almost been determined. The world is so cruel. Then, before he could make any counterattack, under the action of gravity, the man fell down again. "Hey, Teach, where do you want to go?" Vlad was like a shadow, and in the blink of an eye, he was already flying down again, flying directly under Teach. "Let's continue to fly in the sky for a while." The flame frantically gushes out from Vlad's right shoulder, and then shrinks instantly, turning into a huge flame arm. Vlad's flame-like flame is different. His flame has a body. "Fly me back." Vlad smiled. The flame arm clenched his fist violently, and the terrifying power contained in it slammed straight toward the sky. Damn. Wow. Teach was spitting out blood. Fire Dragon. He throws his right fist. Boom. Chapter 373 Broken Dream. There. The flames splashed everywhere, like huge waves surging on the sea, directly illuminating this night sky, and this area was photographed like daytime in the blink of an eye. With a huge scream, the man named Marshall D. Teach was smashed into the sky by Vlad like Kurozumi. Even if he fought head-on with Teach's strange power, he would not be able to resist the Jurong mode of Vla. His strength was directly smashed into the sky by Vlad's flaming fist like a baseball home run. Woo. Vlad's mouth grinned in a weird arc. It's playable again. By now, Vlad can already make a clear judgment. This time the battle is over, although Teach is indeed a very strong guy. After getting the dark fruit and the shock fruit, he can immediately become the fourth emperor. 1. He can already draw a conclusion about how strong his own strength is. The strong strange power, although not as good as Kaido and Charlotte Linlin, is already very powerful in this aspect, and Haki's cultivation is not weak, at least not weaker than Vlad who just went to sea, and then, extremely strong. His vitality and bottomless physical strength, in terms of strength, are definitely not under Brother Cracker, who Vlad had fought against. However, this guy has a bigger disadvantage now. The attack method is too simple. The fighting technique basically relies on strength, and the speed is even slower. The compatibility with Vlad is really bad, but, it can be said, as long as this man can get a powerful attack and field control method, he can soar into the sky immediately, such as the dark fruit and the shock fruit. Unfortunately, he can't wait for that day. Teach, quote, "Your dream." Vlad laughed wantonly, and the two pairs of wings Vivi behind his back flicked, and the amazing speed instantly set off a gust of wind in the sky. There are 3 people who are faster than himself, Kizaru who is Glint Glint Fruit incarnate as light, and Enel who is his subordinate, Guro Guro no Mi Rumble Rumble Fruit who is lightning incarnation. The speed has reached an unimaginable level. The last one is the guy the first met in Mariajoy nearly 3 years ago, the speeder of the speed fruit, although the absolute speed is far less than that of Kizaru and Enel, but this guy can speed up his own thinking. And accelerate. What is the concept? Even if Enel Kizaru can reach the speed of light, his own consciousness can't keep up, and can only be used as a displacement skill at most. However, the speed of the fruit is different. He can fight at such a super high speed throughout the whole process, which is really amazing. Although Vlad's speed is not as fast as the 3 guys above, it has reached the point of terror. At least, the current Teach can't react. Saw. The wind was howling, and Vlad had come to Blackbeard. "Your dream ends here." Hey. Vlad's right arm began to glow again, and the amazing temperature swept out. Teach, who was close at hand, even felt that his skin was burning, and the fat in the body had turned into oil and was discharged from the body. Damn guy. With such a roar, Teach twisted with difficulty. After all, he was in the air and had nowhere to use his power. His fist covered Haki and slammed into Vlad's face. Naive. Ishowed gently. Bang. What? Teach's eyes widened involuntarily. His fist was blocked, not with his hands, but Vlad with his head. Most of Vlad's face was covered with armor-like things, with clear water chestnuts, and the armor covered with a layer of black. Haki easily blocked Teach's fist. I always feel that my defense is not enough. So. Vlad smiled, very wanton, unfinished. Then, pass me through. Vlad swung his right fist. No, it wasn't a fist. Vlad's right hand turned into a knife, and stabbed it fiercely towards Blackbeard's chest. Ah! The terrifying screams that shook the world. Teach's eyes turned white, and his mouth opened wider than ever before. This kind of pain is really unbearable for normal people. After all, a hole was punched through his chest, and his internal organs were directly bombarded, and then it was amazing. The flames raged in his body with a terrifying high temperature. It's almost like this, isn't it? Vlad said, however, just to be on the safe side. Dragon fist, big broken, meteor. The flames started to gather on Vlad's right leg suddenly, and then kicked Teach directly in the stomach. Boom. The amazing explosion happened again, and the flames spread wildly. Whoosh. Vlad's kick carried astonishing power, and Teach was directly kicked and flew towards the still brightly lit city in the distance. Hey, Teach, wait for me. Vlad smiled like this, and he followed up leisurely. He was not worried about Teach running away. His observation hockey had already locked Teach tightly, and there was absolutely no reason for him to run away. Hey, what's that? On the bustling street, the drunk man looked a little surprised at the sky that suddenly became like daytime, like clouds like flames, and then saw a black spot flying towards this side. Hiccup tilde loo, meteor. He had a big tongue and said so. Come on, come here. Boom. Teach's obese body was bombarding the ground like a meteor. The huge pothole appeared on the ground in just an instant. The strong shock wave set off dust all over the sky, and the surrounding buildings were built like bare children. The building blocks collapsed in an instant, and in just a blink of an eye, this area was turned into a ruin from a bustling city. Hey! Hey! Teach, who was lying in the pothole, spitting out blood, and was almost unable to move. Vlad laughed. It's over. Teach. It's over. Vomit. Teach's body was charred black, and there was a blood hole in his chest, and he could vaguely see his internal organs that had been burned beyond recognition. A man's dream. It will never end. Yes. Vlad raised his right hand, and the flames began to gather in his hand. A man's dream never ends, but Teach. Your trip ends here. It's me who won. Chapter 374 Fruit in Hand. Mithra. The flames gathered frantically towards Vlad's hand, and then quickly gathered into a small fireball. The amazing temperature and brightness spread out from above, and the surrounding ground actually showed faint signs of melting. If this blow was to continue, it would be easy to remove the slag that was powerless to use hockey's Teach. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Alas, goodbye, Teach. Vlad suddenly looked sad, as if he would launch an attack in the next moment and blow up Teach's bones, but he didn't do it. Obviously Teach no longer had the strength to resist, but Vlad didn't. He didn't attack directly, but his face was a little tangled. Well, although I really want to say this, I want you to have a bright ending like the sun, and I don't want to see a guy like you end in a suffocating way, but Teach, sometimes, one's emotions are to give way to something more important. Vlad smiled and looked very emotional. The fireball on his fingers dissipated with the wind. Vlad still didn't shoot. Are you happy, Teach? Vlad said, I've decided to let you live a little longer. The thief Ziahaha. At the bottom of the pothole, the whole body was steaming up, and the whole body was slumped to the ground, and there was a Teach face that had been scorched with a big hole on the chest. It was very painful, but this man was still able to laugh. A very unusual guy. Should I thank you, Fire Dragon? Vlad smiled. Yes, I think so. Sparing your life is a gift. Ziahaha, what a shame. Fire Dragon. Teach said, isn't it you who beat Lao Su like this? Hey Tilda. Vlad looked very curious. I thought you would beg for mercy and let me let you go. Vlad is not aimless. This guy Blackbeard is different from all the first-class powerhouses in the sea. It can be said that he is very skinless and shameless. At the end of the war, he was slashed by Whitebeard and called his father. It's the black spot in this man's life, something that can't be cleaned up no matter what. So, Vlad was curious, why didn't this man beg him for mercy now? Isn't Blackbeard the kind of person who would rather die? In other words, out of all the big men in this world, this guy is the one who knows the wind the most, but now that he is close to death, Teach has no intention of begging for mercy, which is really interesting. Ziahaha, Fire Dragon, will I beg you to let me go? Teach smiled rightly. That's right. Vlad understood, it makes a lot of sense. Yes, Teach, you are very observant, because you know I won't let you go even if you beg for mercy, so why don't you just say it? It's so clever, hey. Quote. It's arrogant, Fire Dragon. Blackbeard said sarcastically, such a condescending victor's attitude. Is something wrong? Vlad spread his hands, am I the winner? Ziahahahaha, yeah. Blackbeard laughed, yes, you are the winner. Pride is the only thing for winners. Of course. Vlad smiled and strolled into the pothole, okay, it's almost enough to chat. If you drag it on, even with your strength, I'm afraid it won't last long. I don't want to see you like this. The guy just died, just take a little rest. Teach sighed like a phantom. He picked up Blackbeard without regard for Blackbeard's injury. He punched Blackbeard's head with a heavy punch. The man who had been seriously injured a long time ago finally lost consciousness. Okay. Vlad smiled, holding a Blackbeard in his hand, and he didn't look abrupt with his height of nearly 6 meters now. Everything is done now. Ahahaha. It really went well. I really am the chosen one. Hey, are you the one wreaking havoc in this city? It was at this time that the destruction caused by the Blackbeard being blasted into the town just now finally attracted people, and a group of black suits surrounded the pothole tightly. Bastard, you're not too timid. Do you know where this place is? Do you think you can do whatever you want? The leader is a man with a mustache, a black suit and black sunglasses. At first glance, he looks like a small person. Vlad is not a male protagonist who pretends to slap his face, and he never likes to care about these guys. Huh. With a slight smile, the 2 pairs of wings behind Vlad's back fluttered, and the whole person was already in the air. Call. The wind is howling, the sand is blowing, and it is very difficult for the black suits to keep their bodies from being blown away in the storm. Want to run, bastard? If the Blackbeard is very discerning, then these black suits can be said to be very insighted. Although Vlad did not show any great strength, he is not easy to mess with just by looking at him. Yes, fashion value has always been directly linked to combat effectiveness. Doesn't higher fashion value mean stronger combat effectiveness? A bunch of idiots. With such a sigh, Vlad said softly, flame jet. There. White gold flames spewed out, and the fiery red figure instantly turned into a meteor and shot up into the sky. Vlad had already flown directly towards the place where the 2 fought before. Although he was far away from the previous battlefield, Vlad's observation hockey still keeps an eye on the dark fruit that is placed there. After all, it would be too embarrassing to defeat Blackbeard, but the fruit was picked up by a passerby, right? Uncle Vlad is not a grandfather who gave away treasures. A very wonderful thing appeared above the sky. Although Vlad had gone away, his white gold body remained in place. Hey, bastard, there's a seed. Because the speed was too fast, Vlad's departure was not discovered by the guys below. They took it for granted that Vlad was still in the sky. Then, the white gold figure really went down. Wow. When the wind blew lightly, the white gold figure that still retained Vlad's body completely shattered, turning into a sky of light that sprinkled downwards, which was truly an extremely beautiful scene. What's the matter? What's wrong with that guy? The man in black was a little stunned. Okay, so beautiful. The men in black sighed in a daze. What is this? A man in black looked at the spot of light that was falling towards them and stretched out his hand, and then the splendid spot of light, like a flash of light, gently landed on his palm. There. Ah. Screaming so miserably, the man in black was instantly enveloped in white gold flames. What? It's too late to sigh, endless white light spots have been scattered. Fire purifies everything. Vlad is actually quite cautious. Looks like I'm really the protagonist. Vlad picked up the fruit in front of him and smiled. No one came to pick up this fruit, it's really lucky. The most ferocious devil fruit in history is here. Ah ha ha. Next. Vlad looked towards the sea, and on the sea not far away, a small boat drifted away. Mr. Morik's business should also be dealt with. Chapter 375 I am. The sky in the distance has gradually lit up, and it is really a beautiful scene. There is really no obstacle on the sea surface. The fiery red color expands little by little from the position below the sea surface. Above the originally dark night sky, the clouds are also dyed with a fiery red color little by little. The extremely beautiful the big fireball has emerged little by little from the position below the sea surface. X23 US. Com updates fastest. It's really a joy to be able to see such a scene. I think even the most sinful person will be very happy to see such a scene, right? The pursuit of beautiful things is shared by all people, whether good or bad. However, on this small boat, the group of people watching the rising sun could not feel any warmth at all, and even the wonderful scenery could not erase the pain in these people's hearts. No one will be able to look at Chaoyang and smile when they lose their dearest partner. There is such a beautiful scenery as Chaoyang in the world, and of course there are also things like parting that will only make people extremely painful. Especially, when such a parting is so abrupt, sad things always make people ignore the beauty in life. This is the most helpless thing. No one wants to be forced to laugh at the saddest time. Damn. Teach. Quote. Roaring like this, his face was blurred, and the pirate, whose snot and tears had completely covered his original appearance, shouted angrily, Teach. Stop yelling, asshole. Leaning on the side of the ship, another pirate said, Don't think I'm not embarrassed enough. If roaring is useful, this sea is too simple. But, Captain Thatch. Tears flowed down the man's face irresistibly again. Name Thatch lay quietly in the middle of the boat, surrounded by his companions. Captain Thatch he. The words to stop him can't be said anymore. The man who scolded his partner before was also bursting into tears. The change was too sudden. No one thought of it. He was just relaxing as usual, but it actually happened. Such a thing. One fact they had to accept was that the man who was always laughing and always needed others to worry about him, the man who treated them as biological brothers, really lost his life. For a very nonsensical reason, for the people of the Whitebeard pirates, killing their partner for a devil fruit is really hard to imagine. For the people of the Whitebeard pirates, family, that's the most important thing. Teach that guy. Almost gnashing their teeth, the pirates talked about the guy who killed Captain Thatch. That guy. Don't worry, he won't end well. Finally, Morik, who had been silent all the time, said, after all, his current opponent is that King Shichibukai, the fire dragon Vlad, that man's fighting power. It can no longer be described simply as horror. Morik's tone carried a touch of reverence. That man is a real monster. Teach, I'm afraid he is not his opponent at all. No, not for fear, but for sure. Morik's tone was decisive. Teach will never be his opponent. Hey, some fun. Such a voice came from above, a somewhat happy man's voice. As soon as I came over, I heard someone complimenting me. What? The pirates were extremely surprised and raised their heads suddenly, only to find that Vlad had come to them without a sound, as expected of the fire dragon Vlad. Teach. Quote. Then they saw Blackbeard kicked in the hand by Vlad for the first time. Teach. Oh, that's right, Mr. Teach is right. Vlad replied with a smile, you didn't admit the wrong person. Don't worry, you're not dead. Although it looks miserable, you're still alive. Gudong. Fire dragon. With some hesitation, a certain pirate finally said, Excuse me, can I have Teach? His eyes moved to Vlad's left hand, and he licked his lips nervously, and then he said, the one in your hand, the relic of Captain Thatch's handed over to us." "Well." Vlad raised his eyebrows, and the atmosphere suddenly became tense. "What are you talking about?" Vlad suspected that he had heard it wrong. Quote. The pirates are very hesitant. After all, now, Vlad is an absolute powerhouse. As long as he wants, he can kill them all in an instant, and then no one knows what happened. But, even in the face of with the risk of being killed directly, he didn't want to just watch Teach being taken away, and he didn't want to watch Captain Thatch's relic being taken away. "Please put." Huh. Vlad's eyes widened, and the terrifying aura spread. The surrounding sea was choppy in an instant, and the whole world seemed to be shaking. Quote. Hey. Dong 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 dong. The continuous sound, the pirates of the Whitebeard pirates fell to the ground, foaming at the mouth, rolling their eyes, and the small boat that was originally small huddled together in an instant. "Really, how dare you say it?" Vlad took back his conqueror lightly, looking very unhappy. "How dare you think about trying to take my spoils away? Idiots. Are you able to rob Uncle Vlad's stuff too?" "Lord Vlad, ahem. In fact, there is another person who has consciousness on the boat. The man's name is Morik. Conqueror Hockey can be controlled. Intermediate Conqueror Hockey can choose to release objects at will. Vlad is quite good at it." "Oh, Mr. Morik, it's not a light injury." Vlad smiled. "Let's go, my ship is floating in the sky. I'll take you to see my ship doctor, he's a very powerful guy." Quote. Morik Vivi was silent for a moment, then said, "Sorry, Lord Vlad." "What?" Vlad Vivi frowned. "What did you say?" "I can't go with you." Morik raised his head and said so, with a very serious look. "Why, Morik?" Vlad looked a little surprised. "Your undercover mission has been completed. You don't need to stay in the Whitebeard pirates anymore." "No." Morik said, "You're not right, Lord Vlad. It should be. My repayment to you is over. You let me find the way of going. I am very grateful to you for this, but..." Morik said solemnly, "I am now a member of the Whitebeard pirates. I am a pirate under my father's command." Quote. Vlad's eyes widened. "Ah ha ha ha." Then Vlad started laughing. I understand, Morik, you're already an incredible fellow. This is what the man said, just found a home. Even if you get punished when you go home. Vlad certainly doesn't think that Morik will keep a tight-lipped on his affairs after returning to the Whitebeard pirates. Just as Morik himself said, his repayment of his own gratitude is over. Next, he is pure. The pirates of the Whitebeard pirates are the son of Whitebeard. Yeah. Of course Morik knew what Vlad was talking about, but he still said, "So, isn't Mr. Vlad afraid?" "What am I afraid of? Whitebeard. Find me and talk." Vlad smiled. He also understood what Morik was talking about. If he let Morik go back, it would be an almost ironclad matter for the Whitebeard pirates, but would he be afraid? Besides, we are friends. Quote. Morik was silent. Ah ha ha ha. Goodbye then, my friend. With such a smile, Vlad flapped his wings and soared into the sky. Since Morik had made up his mind, he would not interfere. Really? Morik's voice became vaguely choked. Thank you so much. Chapter 376 Plan A. The sky is gradually breaking, and the dragon man in the glow of the sun pierces the sky. Vlad has a leisurely smile on his face. This time, the goal of coming to the new world has been completed, the dark fruit has been obtained, and Teach has also been captured. The only downside is that Morik didn't come back with him, but forget it, it's not a shortcoming. X23 US. Com updates fastest. After all, Vlad has no position to ask a man who has already made up his mind to change his position. Although Vlad has high self-esteem, he will not think that his charm has reached the point of invincibility, and his body is shocked. The younger brother will pay tribute and worship, and be loyal all his life. Of course human beings can't do such a thing, even Roger can't do it. Even if there is such a person, it can only be a capable person. If there is such a devil fruit, Vlad is quite curious. Vlad's speed is really not slow, very fast. Not long after, above the sky, with the not dim light on the sky that has gradually lit up, Vlad can already see that quiet ship. The big ship floating above the clouds. Hey, hold on. Vlad lowered his head and said, suddenly looking a little frightened, hey, you must stop. Teach, you bastard, fight for it, you bastard, don't just let me die like this. Don't blame Vlad for saying this. It's true that this guy Teach is in a really bad state now. He has 2 holes in the front and 1 back, and his internal organs have been severely injured. Even with this guy's monster-like constitution, he can hold on. How long even Vlad can't predict. So. Really. Vlad raised his head and said softly, sit tight. Teach, fasten your seat belt. Flame jet. There. The white gold meteor shot straight into the sky and galloped towards the big ship above the sky. Dash 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 dash. At this time, on the flying pirate ship, the Platinum D-Drag, the people of the Fire Dragon Pirates have not slept yet. This is of course, the captain is going to do a very important thing. Of course, these crew members have no reason to do so. I went to bed with such a big heart. Although Vlad insisted on going to the trouble of Blackbeard by himself, although he was very relieved about the strength of his own captain, it did not mean that he could go to sleep in peace, right? Comrade Enel is bored. While assembling the Dragon-Tooth Soldier production line to pass the time, the bear named Babo stayed in the cab honestly. Although he was only floating and did not need him to steer, the bear was very interested in the work that could reflect his usefulness. Then, on the deck, the maid, the musician, the ship doctor, and the lecherous samurai Mr. Sakata leisurely watched the rising sun above the sea. It was a really beautiful scene. Crackling. The bright electric light suddenly shot up into the sky, and then fell directly towards the deck. Enel's body had already appeared on the deck. What, Mr. God? The ship's doctor, Tralfagar Law asked, has the captain returned? Well, it's coming soon. Enel leaned lazily on the side of the boat, his eyes were dark, and he had been up for a few nights. Call. Almost at the moment when Enel's voice fell, the fiery red figure, accompanied by the white gold flame, had already flown to the top of the big ship with an astonishingly high temperature. Oh, good morning, friends. Boom. With such a smile, Vlad put away the flame, flapped his wings, and slowly landed on the deck. He threw Teach onto the deck and greeted his partner leisurely. Is that what you're aiming for? Captain, it took so much effort. Enel looked at the dark fruit in Vlad's hand, and said weakly, as the result for such a devil fruit. Don't underestimate it, God. Vlad said, this fruit is super useful. Is this guy an opponent? Sakata Samurai, who was sitting cross-legged on the deck and wiping his sword, thought so. He didn't look very strong at all, he didn't hurt the captain at all, so weak. How fast, Captain? With a cigarette in her mouth, the maid said, no wonder you can do it alone. Well, part of the reason is that the opponent is not very strong, but... Vivi ticked at the corner of Vlad's mouth, there are more important reasons for not letting you guys help. What? Next to the maid, the woman with a big white dog beside her was not very friendly. Tell me about it. Master Captain. Why? Vlad glanced at Teach on the ground with an unpredictable smile on his face. Only I can be his opponent. Huh. The villain version of Serena was a little puzzled. Can't you talk properly? How can you be his opponent? I don't understand it at all. I mean, Vlad said, this guy, it's not a waste to fall into my hands. Is he such a powerful guy? The samurai Sakata, who had been silent for a long time, said so. That's right. Vlad laughed, and sure enough someone understood him. He's a very powerful guy. So, Doctor. Vlad pointed to Teach, who was lying on the deck and was already breathing fast, and said, don't let him die. Leave it to me. Luo nodded. Room. Quote. The spherical space expanded. Luo's figure instantly appeared on Teach's body, his hand lightly pressed on Teach's chest, and then the two figures disappeared on the deck. Hey, that's really hard work. Vlad looked a little surprised. This guy Luo. Yes. The maid nodded in agreement. This guy has been cultivating as if he was dying recently, as expected of Luo. Ah. Normal. Vlad smiled. After all, his goal is not a man who can tolerate his slack. As far as Luo is concerned, it is still a long way off. I won't help him then. The maid slowly exhaled a smoke ring and said so. Understood. Vlad nodded. Doflamingo was Luo's enemy, but not the maid's. Just in time, Captain. It was at this time that the tangy aroma filled the air, and the chef opened the door of the cabin and smiled. It's time to have breakfast. Reliable, chef. Vlad thought so sincerely, just hungry. Then, Luo, come on. Let me see, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Plana. Chapter 377 Like the Sea. Not bad, chef, your craftsmanship is as good as ever. In the spacious restaurant of the Platinum D-Drag, several people from the Fire Dragon Pirates were sitting around a table and eating breakfast. X23 US. Com updates fastest. While stuffing something into his mouth, Vlad routinely praised his chef. The man named Dino is really the most reliable person on this ship. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is Vlad's right hand. Overwhelmed, Captain. The chef smiled, neither happy nor sad. Hoo. However, even in delicious food there is always someone who can't enjoy it. The man named Passo's eyes were wide and round, but his eyes seemed to be frozen, and they would not turn at all, and a slight snoring could be faintly heard. However, the most astonishing thing is that this guy is still stuffing things into his mouth and chewing like a machine. I have to say that this is an amazing technique. The group of Fire Dragon Pirates is no stranger to this situation. This guy always spends all the time in the laboratory and never sleeps well, and then in order to get a little rest time, this ruthless man, the man who has resolutely transformed himself, that is, the state of sleeping while eating, is also very thoughtful. So what, Luo? Vlad asked suddenly, how is that guy? The injuries are really serious. While eating slowly, Luo replied, Captain, you are a little too heavy. No way. Vlad smiled, there's really no way to show mercy to him. I almost killed him. The injury is barely stabilized. Luo said, however, it probably won't last long. Even me, I'm afraid I can only let him live for a few more days. Enough. Vlad smiled, enough is enough. It won't take that long, after all, I want to try it too. Vlad said, that's a lot of fashion. Yeah. Luo nodded. So, Captain. Chef said, is it really good for Mr. Morik to return to the Whitebeard Pirates? What? Is there something wrong? Vlad raised an eyebrow. We don't have to be afraid of the Whitebeard Pirates, even if we can't beat them, they won't be able to keep us, but... So said the cook, Mr. Morik can't get away. Think too much, chef. Vlad laughed, Mr. Morik is that Whitebeard's son. Mr. Morik won't hide it. If you tell everything. The chef looked worried. After all, Morik wanted to help them. Is he still in the Whitebeard Pirates? Don't look down on people too much, chef. Vlad wiped his mouth and smiled. What? The chef frowned, looking very puzzled. Don't look down on that man too much. Vlad stood up and stretched. Whitebeard. That guy. Not only does he have the power to shake the world, just like the ocean, he also has a mind like the ocean that can embrace the world. That's it. The chef smiled. Well, of course. Vlad grinned, it's just a bad old man now. Okay, let's go, Luo. Vlad took the lead, let's go see Mr. Teach. Yeah. Luo followed closely, and next, Vlad needed to use his strength. dash 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 dash. A lot of time has passed, and the sun has already hung high in the sky. At this time, the 4th Division of the Whitebeard Pirates headed by Morik has returned to the Moby Dick. Whitebeard Pirates, who had been laughing and laughing all the time, finally stopped laughing like a big family. No father can laugh out loud when he sees the death of his beloved son, and few brothers can be indifferent when he sees the body of his dearest. Thatch's long dead body was placed on the deck, and the people around him were the family members of the man when he was alive. Quote. The name is Dewa Newgate, the identity is the legendary pirate of the last era, and now he dominates the New World. He is known as the captain of the Whitebeard Pirates, one of the 4 emperors, and the strongest man in the world. The dead father of Thatch. Whitebeard's voice didn't sound much changed, couldn't tell the grief in it. What a bad boy. Did I actually let Lao Su see his son die? After Roger, even the tyrant of the sea, even the strongest monster in the world, even Whitebeard, he is actually a human being, and he will die because of the departure of his family. Pain. Damn. The man with the pineapple-like hairstyle covered his eyes weakly, and tears flowed down from the gaps in his palms. How can this be OEH? Is it really Teach? Named Vista looked in disbelief. That guy really? Everyone on the boat knows what Teach is. He has always been a good-natured guy who gets along well with everyone. Killing one's own partner is actually quite unbelievable. Quote. A man as reliable as his appearance. Diamond Jozu was silent and did not speak. It's Teach, that's right. Very weak, and the wound on his chest had not been treated at all. Morik's face was pale, and he said, in order to capture the fruit, the dark fruit, he attacked Captain Thatch without hesitation. According to his own words. He's been waiting on the ship for decades for this fruit. Hey, Kalala. Whitebeard let out a slow sigh of relief and said softly, Teach. Where's Teach? Morik. The man with the upper body, Porgusty Ace's face was blurred, and he walked to Morik's side, holding a fist in his hand. Due to too much force, his fingernails had pierced into his palm, and blood dripping. Tell me, Teach that guy, where is it? Teach him, he's alive, just. Morik looked hesitant, and then said, he has been taken away by the fire dragon. Fire dragon, Shichibukai's fire dragon OEH. Unexpected character AEH. Marco frowned, how can you be involved with this guy? He, too, is for. Morik raised his head and said softly, dark fruit. What? Marco frowned. Teach had seen the dark fruit with his own eyes. The question is, how did the dragon know? It's me. Morik said frankly, I told him, I am. Vlad the Fire Dragon dispatched to the Whitebeard Pirates undercover. Chapter 378 Ace's Decision. You said. Marco's expression gradually cooled down, what? Before a few months. Morik said lightly, the Fire Dragon found me, yes, I knew him before, and he gave me the desire to pursue my dreams. I admire him very much. He is indeed an amazing guy. Even now, I think. Morik looked at Whitebeard, who was unmoved, and replied without hesitation. He's the man most likely to be One Piece King of Pirates. Go on, Morik. Marco said solemnly, go on. The Fire Dragon found me and wanted me to do him a favor. I didn't refuse. He let me infiltrate the Whitebeard Pirates. Morik didn't mean to hide, let me be his undercover. So, is that Fire Dragon eyeing our Whitebeard Pirates? Vista replied, it's too arrogant. I don't know if the Fire Dragon is hostile to the Whitebeard Pirates or not. The only reason he let me join is to help him wait for a fruit to appear. He is not interested in other information about the Whitebeard Pirates, and I don't know either. What did the man think? Morik said so. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Dark fruit. Marco frowned. I don't know how he knew, anyway, the dark fruit appeared. Of course, these people didn't know that Vlad had read the script beforehand, and this situation was already strange to them. Then, Morik said, according to the agreement, I told the fire dragon about this, and then, just before the fire dragon came, Teach attacked Captain Thatch, and just when Teach thought he had succeeded, the fire dragon appeared. He defeated Teach, and the dark fruit and Teach himself have been taken away by him. Call. Morik let out a slow sigh of relief, that's all I know. Quote. Silence, silence is the Moby Dick now. What an interesting kid, Kula la la la. Finally, Whitebeard said, is it Vlad the fire dragon? Fire dragon. Of course, Ace will not forget that man, the guy he met in Sabayati Archipelago more than 2 years ago, the guy who just met for the first time and already felt that this guy is definitely not an easy guy. Did Teach take him away? Thatch's relic, the dark fruit was also taken by that guy, E.H. Yeah. Morik Vivi nodded, without denying. Why are you coming back? Morik, answer me. Marco walked to Morik's side and asked in a somewhat unfriendly tone, you have already completed the agreement with the fire dragon, why are you coming back here? Why, you have to say why. Morik opened his mouth and said, it's because I have completed the agreement with the fire dragon, and I am now only a member of the Whitebeard pirates. I think because I have betrayed my family, so what I should do is, come back here, accept Papa, be tried by the family. Quote. Morik's tone was sincere, he wasn't lying. You bastard. Marco was silent, then hesitantly, did you come back to find death? Now that a decision has been made, you must bear the consequences for your decision. Morik smiled, I'm a man after all. Quote. Daddy. After a moment of silence, Marco turned his head and looked at the majestic man. It was up to the parents to decide what happened. Today is such a sad day that my beloved son lost his life because a trivial thing took his precious life by a stupid guy. Whitebeard's expression is a little sad. He is 72 years old and has been messing around in the sea for half a century. Even a man like him who is used to life and death will still feel sad after encountering such a thing today. Even if people call me a monster, the unchangeable fact is that I'm just an old man. No one can beat time, I've lost a son, so. Whitebeard said, don't let me lose my second son today. Quote. Tick. Why do people cry? Is it because of emotion? Is it because of pain? Is it for joy? Is it because of sadness? No one knows, but at least one thing is clear, that is, the situation that can make a man like Morik cry, maybe it really touches his heart. Big tears fell on the deck, and the tears of the man named Morik blurred his vision. Daddy me, I. Silly boy. Whitebeard's voice was very low, isn't it a father's responsibility to forgive the sons for their wrongdoings? Daddy, everyone. For the first time, Morik cried like a child and slammed his head on the deck. I'm really sorry. Idiot. Says Whitebeard, what's wrong with being a man and keeping his promises to others? That's right. As the eldest son of this big family, Marco said, the only thing that is despicable is the fire dragon, and you, Morik, you have done the best you can. Quote. Boom. Morik suddenly fell on the deck and lost consciousness. His injuries were really serious. The wound on his chest that was hit by Teach would not heal on his own. It was not easy to survive until now. He finally lost consciousness, but there was a smile on the corner of his mouth. What's wrong? Startled, Marco walked to Morik's side and lowered his head to check on Morik's situation. This kid, the injury is too heavy, how can he last so long? Ship doctor, come and treat this kid. The beautiful ship doctors and sisters unique to the Whitebeard pirates came over and carried Morik away skillfully to treat this man. Daddy, Thatch thing. Marco looked hesitant. Let's have a funeral for Thatch first. Whitebeard looked at the man lying motionless on the deck with some emotion, knowing that Thatch, who was always active and loved by everyone, was really gone. Good. Marco nodded. Dad, is that enough? Marco's understanding does not mean that Ace can understand. The man said angrily, is that the case with Thatch? Ace, what are you trying to say? Marco said so. I'm going to find that fellow fire dragon. Ace said, Teach is my subordinate, I'm going to bring him back. Thatch is my best brother. I can't just see the fire dragon get his revenge, I'll take revenge, let me get his relics back. What, Ace? Marco turned his head sharply, you're going to find the fire dragon, Yes. Ace nodded. Why do you think that way? Marco said, Ace, Teach may have been killed by the fire dragon, and the secret fruit was eaten by someone, what's the point of you going? Do you want to seek revenge on the fire dragon? Indeed, this guy stole Thatch's relics, and even set up an undercover agent on our ship, but in another sense, he also avenged Thatch. It's good for us. If you want to judge him as an enemy it's really a bit far-fetched, oh. But, Marco. Ace said this very seriously. Did Thatch get killed and we don't do anything? Teach is my subordinate, and the dark fruit is Thatch's relic. I gotta do something for Thatch. Chapter 379 Plan B. Wow. On the sea, a boat full of flowers gradually drifted away. The body of a man named Thatch lay quietly on the boat. The blue waves were rippling. The end came, and it was Thatch's funeral. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Woo. Damn. Captain Thatch. Why is this happening? Everyone knows that after this funeral, the man who always smiled at everyone is really gone. This time it is not just about the absence of life, but about the existence of this man. The fact has been completely erased. Therefore, everyone can't restrain their feelings. Some people may say that they all make a living on the sea. Why is Hayes, who is used to seeing life and death, sad because of such a thing? In fact, it is because he is used to seeing life and death. It is precisely because he will fight to the death on the sea that he will cherish life more, especially the life of his partner. Thatch, you bastard. A man named Ace stood on the side of the boat, his right hand clenched his fist, tears blurred his cheeks. Thatch was a bad big brother to Ace, and he didn't treat Ace as someone who needed to be taken care of like Marco did. Little brother, the man's favorite thing to do is to encourage Ace to have fun with him. The word, bad friend, is the most appropriate word to describe it. It is such a sad thing for such a big brother to hold a funeral for him today. There. Flames rose from Ace's fist. Good way. In heaven. Ace said so softly, his voice choked to the extreme, don't go to Custom Street again. Hey. Ace's arm Vivi flicked, and the flames turned into a line of fire and swept out, gently falling on the boat in the distance. There. The flames swept through, and the boat was immediately wrapped in flames. The bright fire illuminated a large sea area, but it cast a large shadow on the hearts of the pirates on the Moby Dick not far away. Captain Thatch. Thatch. Relax, Thatch. Ace pressed his hat, trying hard not to reveal his expression. I'll go and bring back that boy Teach. And that fruit. Dad, Ace. The side, Marco, who was also tearful, stood beside Whitebeard and said worriedly, that kid has really made up his mind. Quote. Whitebeard stared blankly at the flaming boat on the sea. Only at such a moment can this man who was feared as a monster by the people on the sea behave in line with his age, although in the legends of the previous era the man is the youngest, but he is 72 years old this year and has reached the end of his life. If he wants to do it, let him do it. Whitebeard said, isn't it normal for that kid Ace to think of Thatch as his best brother and to want to do something for his family? But, Fire Dragon. Marco was a little worried. See you la, what are you worried about? Marco. Whitebeard smiled, we are the Whitebeard Pirates. Besides, that kid Fire Dragon is not necessarily an enemy, although he has never met, he must be a very interesting kid. Didn't Ace know him? Whitebeard didn't say that. A little bit forward in time, floating above the platinum D-drag high in the sky. How is it, Luo? Vlad was really excited. This time it was rare that he didn't call Luo by his nickname, but by his first name. How is it? No way. Luo looked troubled. You have gone too far. In front of them is a scene that can be called horror. The chest of the man named Marshall D. Teach has been completely empty. It is not that the clothes are empty, but the whole chest to the back has been pulled out. The location is completely a big hole. On one side of the table, there are many muscle pieces, bone pieces, and even large pieces of black, suspected internal organs that have been almost destroyed. It's really terrifying, and what's even more terrifying is that these muscles and viscera are still together and seem to be still functioning together. It's really an amazing ability. Cut into dozens of pieces but will not cause harm to the human body, whether it is fighting or supporting. It is really a very powerful ability. Really? Vlad scratched his head and said with some annoyance, I accidentally used too much force. It's really because it's really hard to raise the idea of releasing water when confronting this guy, and I just restrained the idea of killing him directly. It makes me a little embarrassed. So, Captain. Luo picked up a piece of the blurred account and said, this guy's internal organs have been burned in a mess by you. If you want to carefully observe what is different, I'm afraid you can't do it. Then what if you're not careful? Vlad said, is this guy any different from the average guy on a big scale? Yes. Luo said so. Yeah. A look of joy appeared on Vlad's face. The vitality is extremely tenacious, and such an injury can still survive. Luo looked a little surprised. What an amazing guy. Such a difference. Vlad looked very disappointed. This kind of peculiarity was not what he expected at all. I mean, does his body have any unusual structure? Vlad asked. I'm talking about this. Structures different from ordinary people. Luo was a little confused. What about the specifics? For example. Vlad danced and said, there are 2 hearts, 3 kidneys and so on. Amount. Luo's expression was a little subtle, looking at Vlad like a fool. Captain, is there no such person? Amount. Really? Vlad's expression was a little disappointed. That means Teach is the same as a normal person in structure. I'm not sure, Captain, there must be a reason for you to ask that, but... Luo said, because there are so many places burned, I can't tell if this man is really not special. Understood. Vlad nodded, this is still unknown. Other words, Plana failed, because it was impossible to determine whether there was anything special in Teach's body. Since the preconditions were not met, then this plan was not worth the risk for Vlad. It's such a hassle to get a fashionable double fruit. Vlad twitched the corners of his mouth. Then we can only count on Plan B, right? Chapter 380 Plan B. Vlad would want to get the dark fruit, and it is not unreasonable to go and catch Teach back. His goal is very simple, just like the Blackbeard in the original work, to become a dual fruit ability with high fashion value. The dark fruit is indeed a very powerful fruit, and the fact that it restrains all abilities is already coveted. X23 US. Com updates fastest. Then, the dark fruit also has the ability to absorb damage, which is very terrifying. Although it has to bear double the pain, the ability to absorb damage means that this is similar to the recovery ability of the phoenix fruit, although it is impossible to have a bug like a phoenix fruit, but definitely not weak. Then, in the end, the dark fruit is suspected to have the ability to capture the ability of the devil fruit. This is the ability that Vlad attaches great importance to. With this, if you want to form an army of devil fruit ability, you don't need to be like Kaido. The artificial devil fruit is much simpler, isn't it? Therefore, at the very beginning, the dark fruit was the fruit that Vlad had been waiting for, until Vlad got the dragon fruit 3 years ago, which was also not weak, disrupted Vlad's original plan. So, now, even if the dark fruit has been obtained, Vlad does not know what to do. After all, he has already eaten the dragon fruit. Everyone knows that anyone who eats multiple devil fruits will only be blown to pieces. Vlad doesn't want to die, especially such a stupid way to die. So naturally, he focused his attention on Teach. This man is a unique dual fruit ability, and Vlad wanted to find inspiration in this man. Life. There are two mainstream speculations that Teach can have two abilities. One is of course that Teach itself is special, just like Marco said, Teach itself is weird, so Teach can bear two devil fruits, EPH. Rad's initial plan was to grab Teach and try to see if he could build such a speciality in his body through Luo's ability, so as to realize the double fruit situation. But now, this is impossible. Then there is the second guess. Some people also think that the black hole gravity of the dark fruit can attract all capable people. So, can you think that the devil of the shaking fruit is also absorbed by the dark fruit? In other words, it is the uniqueness of the dark fruit that allows Teach to have the ability to double fruit. This is actually familiar. The dark fruit can make the ability invalid, but it may not make the fruit conflict invalid. It is not yet the final decryption time. No one knows what it is. The dark fruit may really have such an ability. This is something that no one can say for sure. Vlad's plan A is based on the first guess, that is to say, by transforming his body into a plan to look like an alien like Blackbeard, if there really is an alien, but now it seems that this one plan was to be stranded, and Blackbeard's body was messed up by Vlad, and he couldn't see anything, let alone remodeled. It was not easy to recognize which piece of these things were. Then there is actually a backup plan for plan A, which is the plan based on the second guess. The most brainless plan is to directly put the dark fruit in the mouth and gamble on the dark fruit to suppress it. The devil, in the dragon fruit, allowing the two fruits to coexist in his body, is really the easiest and most mindless solution. However, Vlad hasn't lived enough. Vlad really can't do such a bet on luck. For things that are not recorded in the devil fruit illustrations, Vlad is not bold enough to bet everything to fight this line. There is no chance of success. Once the bet is wrong, there is no chance to make up for it, and some are just, boom. So, now that plan A can only be stranded, we can only try plan B. Since you can't eat it by yourself, then don't let it be eaten by yourself. Forget it. Vlad looked at Teach, who was completely out of shape, and suddenly looked a little ashamed. Although Teach was a bastard without a lower limit, Vlad still admired him. Vlad will not feel refreshed. If it doesn't work, then forget it. Vlad said to Luo, restore him. Doctor. Okay, but... Luo asked, what about after recovery? Captain. After that. Vlad turned his head and smiled, it's up to me to give him a brilliant ending. Understood. Luo nodded. Dash 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 dash. Gate of opening, Paso. Now that he has decided to implement plan B, of course Vlad immediately went to find the man who could help him try this plan, the most worry-free guy on this ship. Standing at the door of Paso's laboratory, Vlad knocked on the door. Quote. Unexpectedly, the guy inside had no intention of coming to gate of opening at all, and it was as silent as death. I'm so stupid, how can I expect this guy to come over and give me the gate of opening? Vlad's self-examination. This man, Paso, can be said to be a research madman. Even when he is not doing research, he will be involuntarily distracted by simulation research, and a man who is so addicted to transforming his body to the state where he can use meal time to make up for sleep is really possible. Said it was great. There. Vlad's hand was instantly covered with a layer of red dragon scales, and white gold flames began to wrap around it. Hot laser. Gently, the flame shot out like a ray, directly hitting the metal gate in front of Vlad. C. Sparks splashed around, and as Vlad's fingers swayed gently, a block was cut out of the metal gate in an instant. With a bang, the cut-out place suddenly fell down, in front of Vlad. A big hole was created. It was really easy for Enel, who had the ability of lay metallurgy, to build another door. Then, as soon as Vlad walked into the laboratory, he saw that fellow Paso was standing in front of a large glass pillar with a serious face, holding a notebook in his hand that seemed to be recording something. Inside the pillar is a bizarre creature, like a tiger, like a lion, like an elephant, like a rhinoceros. In short, it feels like a collection of several biological characteristics. This is what this man is researching recently. He wants to make a powerful genetic beast. Paso. Vlad walked behind Paso. This man was still unconscious. It seemed that he really wasn't a qualified combatant. If he really fought someone, he might have been stabbed to death and still didn't react. Hey, come back to God. Vlad patted Paso on the shoulder. Well, Captain. Paso looked back in a daze. Well, it's me. Vlad asked so excitedly, how's it going? How's your research on that technology?